After killing Wrath, I stored his body inside my inventory. Soon afterward, I found Gluttony struggling beneath the wreckage of several collapsed rocks. My new demonic companion was truly pathetic. However, we needed to leave before the local authorities arrived. Mauritania might be considered a third world country, but that did not mean it was completely underdeveloped. The main difference between nations was simply that first world countries were located in lands with better resources. Before leaving, I prayed for everyone who had died. Evil spirits could appear in places where so many people had lost their lives. Even worse, the entire city might eventually become cursed land. I currently had the body of a dragon inside my inventory, which meant I might be able to extract its dragon core or heart. I was not particularly interested in physically modifying my body, but I was more open to using the corpse to strengthen myself in another way. I could use the dragon's body as nourishment to reinforce my own body. However, that would have to wait. After witnessing all the lives Wrath had taken, I decided to become a demon hunter, at least temporarily. After all, my foolish uncle was the one who had released Satan. I could hardly believe I now had to deal with the consequences of someone else's mistakes. In any case, I decided it would be better to solve my current problem before thinking about how to use the dragon's corpse. Under the guidance of my incredibly compassionate companion, Gluttony, I traveled to the United States of America. There, I would be able to hunt down both envy and greed. Since I had chosen to kill envy first, my destination was New York. I stood on a crowded street as the sun began to set. Even at that hour, New York remained as busy as ever. Finding a single demon in a city with more than 7.5 million people should not be difficult, right? I said sarcastically while wondering where to begin. This will prove harder than expected, Gluttony muttered from inside my bag. He seemed to understand that revealing himself in public would be dangerous. In truth, I had avoided visiting America in the past. The United States government liked to keep its magus organizations under tight control, and the clock tower did not have a particularly friendly relationship with the American government. Because of that, I intended to finish my work as quickly as possible. Perhaps it will not be as difficult as it seems, I said as I picked up a discarded newspaper from the ground. According to the report, a serial killer had murdered more than 300 people during the last 6 days. The killer had been given the name the Reaper of New York streets. The only thing left behind at each crime scene was the victim's skeleton. It seems our friend has been rather busy. This sounds like her, Gluttony said. She really is envy. With this, she may be easier to find, but fighting her will be extremely troublesome. Her? I asked. Envy is female? Is she stronger than Wrath? It depends, he replied slowly. Envy is exactly what her name represents. She kills and steals anything she desires. Appearance, magic circuits, gender, memories. He paused before continuing. Except for Wrath, Lust, and Sloth, the rest of us grow stronger over time. I see. I needed to visit the most recent crime scene. Unfortunately, Gluttony's connection to the other sins was not strong enough to reveal Envy's exact location. He could sense the general area where another sin was located, but nothing more. However, if I visited a place where Envy had recently been, I could perform a ritual to predict her location. After all, clairvoyance was not one of my greatest talents. Using the newspaper, I found the address of the most recent murder and took a taxi toward Queens, where a family of 6 had been killed. Since Envy had apparently taken on the identity of a serial killer, she would soon be known as one of the most dangerous and fastest killers in history. Every victim had been reduced to nothing more than a skeleton. I only hoped that no magus organization had become involved yet. After roughly 20 minutes, the driver dropped me off at the address I had given him. I stepped out of the taxi and watched until it disappeared down the road. Then, I approached the victim's home. It was an ordinary 2-story house with a small backyard. "Excuse me, sir." A black FBI agent approached me. "May I ask who you are and what you are doing here?" "Of course," I replied with a smile. I looked directly into his eyes and placed him under hypnosis. I could have used mental interference to alter his memories, but I had no intention of carelessly damaging the mind of a random person. "Before that, may I ask who you are?" "Agent J, FBI," he answered immediately. "Well, Agent J, I am your new superior. Is your partner here with you?" I asked jokingly. "No, because there are so many crime scenes. My partner, Agent K, was assigned elsewhere," Agent J replied, completely accepting the idea that I was his superior. "Very well, Agent J, show me the crime scene." He nodded and led me inside. He brought me to the room where the family had been murdered. Ignoring the police markings, I pulled away the covering on the floor. Then, I retrieved a piece of chalk from my inventory and drew a large circle containing a 5-pointed star. I did not care that Agent J was watching me because he remained under the influence of my hypnosis. "May I ask what you are doing, sir?" he questioned. I ignored him. I removed a golden cup from my inventory and handed it to him. "Hold this for a moment." Next, I took out 5 small candles and placed one at each point of the star. After lighting them, I took the golden cup back from Agent J and placed it in the center of the circle. Then, I caused Agent J to lose consciousness. I cut my wrist and allowed my blood to flow into the cup. To do this, I temporarily suppressed Avalon's healing effect. I only reactivated it after the cup had been filled halfway. Closing my eyes, I began whispering the incantation repeatedly. This was a ritual combining witchcraft and formal magecraft. It required no prana from me because it operated by directing the mana of the world itself. Had I possessed X-rank clairvoyance, locating envy would have been effortless. Unfortunately, my clairvoyance was only C rank. I opened the door and entered the house without caring whether anyone noticed me. It seemed envy was too occupied to pay attention, killing people without pause. Although I could not exactly blame him, since that was his purpose, after all. Earlier, my prediction ritual had succeeded. Afterward, I erased every sign of my presence and made Agent J forget that I existed. I could not simply reveal the existence of magecraft to some random person. Magecraft, monsters, vampires, and magic were secrets that the general public should never learn about. Revealing them would cause far more problems for ordinary people than it would for us. More importantly, I needed to deal with envy quickly so that I could begin hunting greed. I could not afford to underestimate them and allow them to grow stronger than I could handle. Sloth and lust were also still somewhere else in the world. I locked the door behind me and examined my surroundings. I was standing inside a large two-story house located in a wealthy neighborhood. It contained numerous rooms and was far more spacious than an ordinary home. According to my divination, envy was still somewhere inside. The thick scent of blood filling the first floor confirmed it. I assumed he was on the upper floor, so I softened my footsteps and slowly climbed the stairs. As I reached the top, I began hearing a faint sound. Someone was crying, although the noise was muffled. I immediately increased my pace and followed the sound to its source. It came from a room with an open door. When I looked inside, I saw a blonde girl sitting in the corner with her knees pulled against her chest, crying uncontrollably. Nearby, a creature was devouring someone who appeared to be either her boyfriend or her brother. The creature possessed a human body and wore ordinary clothes, but its head resembled the monster from the thing. I pulled a pistol from my inventory and activated Knight of Honor, temporarily transforming the weapon into a D-rank noble phantasm. It was an automatic pistol, so there was no need to release a safety. Bang, bang, bang. I fired 3 bullets directly into the creature's head. Naturally, I did not expect 3 bullets alone to kill it. However, the creature collapsed to the floor and stopped moving. The moment she saw it fall, the girl rushed toward me and suddenly wrapped her arms around me. Apparently, she did not care that I was a complete stranger. I could have avoided her, but I saw no reason to do so. I did not believe she posed any danger to me. My attention returned to Envy's body. His corpse began breaking apart, transforming into a writhing mass of worms. Their disgusting appearance made even the Madacrest worms seem respectable by comparison. I gently pushed the girl aside as the swarm twisted together and reconstructed itself. Within seconds, the worms formed the body of an adult man, complete with clothing. Oh, it's really nice to see you. You're going to make a delicious meal, he said, revealing a mouth filled with sharp teeth. I closed my eyes for a moment before opening them again. It was slightly irritating that the Sins already knew my identity, but that knowledge would not help them. I quickly stretched my hand toward him. Answers. His entire body burst into flames. Envy screamed in agony as the fire consumed him. Fortunately, I had enough control over the flames to prevent the house itself from catching fire. Answers. The fire intensified. His body completely burned away, once again collapsing into a mass of worms. However, the worms continued burning until nothing remained. I turned toward the blonde girl and used mental interference to put her to sleep. A series of system notifications appeared before me. You have killed one of the Sins, Envy. You have received 1,200,000 EXP. You have reached level 76. Total available stat points, 8. You have killed one of the Sins, Envy. You may select 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Presence concealment, A. Eye for art, B. Torture techniques, A. Noble phantasms. Meat-eating worms, B+. Medium awareness of enemies, B. I studied the list and decided to select torture techniques and eye for art, since they were the only worthwhile options. Envy had been surprisingly weak, but I suspected that was because he had not yet reached his true potential. I used observation on the available noble phantasms. Meat-eating worms, B+ grants the user a body composed of demonic worms. After devouring a human, the user can acquire the victim's appearance, magical circuits, and memories. So, in other words, I would become an even more disgusting version of Zukanmatu? No, thank you. Besides, changing the structure of my body might make me weaker than I already was. I examined the second noble phantasm. Medium awareness of enemies, B grants the ability to perceive the true name, type, origin, and alignment of any servant. I sighed before selecting torture techniques, eye for art, and medium awareness of enemies. Hello, author here. I want to explain a few things, including why Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg has not interacted with the MC. I also want to explain my theory regarding the multiverse and different timelines. First, there is no true multiverse containing an infinite number of naturally existing parallel universes. Originally, there was only one universe, which I will refer to as the main universe. This is the universe in which the story takes place. Within Akasha, every possible outcome and possibility is recorded. However, those possibilities do not automatically become separate timelines or universes. Certain abilities, such as Gilgamesh's noble phantasm, can be used to observe these possibilities. However, a possibility does not become a genuine timeline or parallel universe unless someone travels into the past and changes something, or someone physically enters that possibility. This is where Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg and the second magic become important. Zelrich can not only observe different possibilities, but also travel into them. Once he enters one of those possibilities, it becomes real. Because Zelrich possesses the second magic, traveling into another possibility does not create another version of him. Therefore, there is only one Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg across all timelines. Now I will explain the role of the fifth magic. The fifth magic cannot directly enter other possibilities. Instead, it can be used to travel through time and alter the past. However, changing the past does not overwrite the original future. Instead, an entirely new timeline is created. In simple terms, there is one main universe in which the events of this novel occur. The first and only Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg also originates from this universe. In this timeline, Angra Mainyu was summoned during the Third Holy Grail War. The events of Fate/Stay Night, Tsukaihime, and Fate/Strange Fake also take place within this same universe. The events of Fate/Grand Order and many other stories are also connected to it. Therefore, while every possible outcome is recorded within the root, a parallel universe is created only when Zelrich uses the second magic to enter one of those possibilities, or when Aiko alters the past. Many people may possess the ability to observe those possibilities, but observation alone does not cause a parallel universe to exist. Of course, there are also entirely separate universes that are fundamentally different from the main universe. Examples include the universe from which Thulhu originates and the universe from which Victor came. So, why is Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg not particularly interested in Victor, even though Victor currently exists within the main universe? Why does he not question the absence of Victor Von Doom in every other parallel universe? The answer is simple. Victor is certainly interesting, but because he exists within the main universe, Zelrich would naturally assume that Victor had always existed there. The parallel universes and possibilities are merely different what-if variations derived from the main universe. Therefore, the absence of Victor in those possibilities would not necessarily appear suspicious. The universe itself is also infinite. By this, I do not mean that the universe has no beginning. I mean that its size is infinite, and therefore it possesses infinite heat and infinite mass. Because of this, even if Aiko sent what appeared to be 1/4 of the universe's heat into the future, that calculation would only make sense if the universe possessed a limited amount of mass and energy. Since the universe is infinite, her actions did not truly initiate the death of the universe. One final point concerns Gaia and Aleia. Gaia and Aleia are separate entities in each parallel universe. They are not single beings that exist across the entire multiverse, as many people believe. Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg also cannot travel to anime worlds or completely separate universes. The second magic only governs parallel worlds. Therefore, Zelrich can travel only between the possibilities and timelines originating from the main universe. Victor does not share humanity's collective consciousness, meaning he exists entirely separately from Aleia. The only reason Aleia does not identify him as an enemy is because Victor remains spiritually and physically human. From Aleia's perspective, he was simply born with an unusual ability that grants him independence from the collective unconscious. Therefore, she treats him the same way she would treat any other human. After I killed the monster, and saved the girl, I love how it sounds to hear this. Unfortunately, I cannot be proud of my actions because of some written rules. However, all I have to do is wait another 4 years. Only 4. Anyway, I faked the crime scene and it made it look like an ordinary murder, and I adjusted the memory of the blonde girl to make her think that it was just an ordinary human being who entered and killed her family before he escaped. After all, I cannot leave traces on my presence. Of course, I cannot change the fact that some cameras may have photographed me, but the supernaturals of the USA can take care of this. Going back to Mauritania, I knew that while I was fighting Wrath, I was being watched by the eyes of a desert hawk. Perhaps the Magus who was watching me was using a spell of mutual perception, and I also thought that there were many other bodies that were observing that city. After everything, an entire city was destroyed by a supernatural creature. While I'm sure that anyone who knew me would try to keep the matter hidden at first, but that soon it would become common knowledge. After all, I killed a dragon that destroyed a city, and also, I killed the only dragon in the human age. My next goal was greed. Since all sins possess what appears to be some kind of connection between them, greed ran away when he felt that envy, his closest sin, had been killed. Fortunately, with the help of the demonic book in my bag, I could track down greed all the way from New York to the south of the Amazon jungle in South America. It was an arduous journey, as the encouragement continued to stop in multiple places and was constantly changing its tracks, but it seemed that finally stop. Beware. I feel like, he's here, said Gluttony from my bag while he was warning me. Hear this, I immediately raised my defenses immediately. I had encouragement before, and I could have known that his abilities were assimilation of animals and phantasm species before he could transform them and even create hybrid forms. The last time he managed to escape by turning into a bird, I could have stopped him, but I wanted to see what if he continues to escape again and again. Suddenly, I jumped up in the air and used the trees around me as walls to evade the giant worm that came out of the ground beneath me. After that, I removed several knives from my stock and threw them towards the worm that opened its mouth full of sharp teeth and swallowed the knives. I smiled ridiculously. Now that I caught him again, I will never let him escape. Regardless of him, there is still both lust and laziness to take care of them. By taking advantage of the force of nature called gravity, I strengthened my body with a reinforcement magecraft and kicked the worm in its head, causing it to return to Earth. I fell a few meters away and I smiled when I saw that greed descended under the ground. After several seconds, greed began attacking me again by trying to devour me from below, but I continued to avoid his attacks and reciprocate in kind. After some time he jumped up in the air and was done covering his body with a black substance, and in less than a second completely transformed into a new creature. It looks like an attack between a lizard and a human and has a scorpion tail and antennae with a winged bird's wings. Apart from this, it is 3 full meters long. Is this your true form? I asked her while I was completely relaxed. The most practical right now. It's still far from the perfect being, but it's more than enough to devour you, he replied, in a deep voice. If I think we should test the validity of your words, I told him as I got into a mixed position on the Beiji Quan and the Chinese Kung Fu. Doom, you will meet your doom today, he told me before quickly attacking me with his paws. Through the agreement of both the eye of the mind, true, and the abilities of dividing and speeding up thought, I could foretell his next movement before he thought about it, and this was not difficult because it depended on his animal instincts more than his reliance on focus. However, he still had a higher physical strength than me, and thanks, his animal additions he could do to attack me in different ways. Fortunately I was using my martial arts in an optimal way, and I was taking advantage of both his weaknesses and his strength against him. He even was uprooting big trees and trying to hit me and throw them towards me. Of course I was avoiding all his attacks, but he managed to scratch me a few times. Luckily that Avalon was recovering me automatically. I avoided the punch that passed over my head and punched the side of his chest by waking from the Bejiquan to cause internal damage to him, before I slid around him and grabbed his tail of scorpion and pulled him out brutally by pressing my weight on the floor. Greed turned back toward me at its top speed, causing it to collide with me. Fortunately I used a simple wind spell that pushed me back, so while I was hit by it, I avoided running over because of his huge body weight. You will regret this, Victor Von Doom, Greed said angrily when he turned towards me, while his lizard scales began to grow in size and harshness, and I will make sure of this with my life. He started attacking me fiercely, and more wildly, and with the passage of time he became more powerful, faster, but not intelligent. With the passage of time I began to notice that the heat around his body was getting hotter, and red cracks began to appear on his body. Thinking he has this suicide skill, if I can't get it, no one will, right? He is really greedy. I activated my mystic eyes of death perception and removed a dagger from my inventory, and I avoided suicide attacks and I cut death lines related to his arms and legs. This, nothing, changes. Greed said when his body began to swell and look like it was about to explode. Upon seeing this, I pulled out Rongominiad and stabbed Greed in his chest as there were tangles between death lines. After killing him his body stopped puffing and his eyes lost life.
Hello everyone! As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.
His body turned into nothing more than a biomass spread throughout the place. I used a brief spell by my divine words, a language that has been lost since the age of the gods, to cast a spell of fire to burn the biomass. One important rule, don't let anything that might cause you problems like reviving your enemy. You killed one of the sins, greed. You gain 3,200,000 EXP. You have reached level 77. You have reached level 78. Total statistical points, 12. You killed one of the sins, greed. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills: Animalistic Logic, B++. Animal Communication, A. Instinct, A. Annihilation Wish, A+. Noble Phantasm, Apex Dream, A. The Law of Nature, B. I looked at the list of skills seriously. They were all high-level skills. Animalistic logic was useless for me because my fighting style was based on predictive abilities in the near future and on my mental arithmetic capabilities, while animal communication seemed good, but I did not want to become a hermit or get a group of birds and cats to help me. Annihilation Wish is a suicide skill. At its current level I may be able to continue for a few minutes before it explodes like a time bomb, so it is better than Angra Mainyu skill. Instinct. I possess one in the C rank, but Instinct A gives a level of prediction for the near future, in addition to increasing muscle memory and physical reactions, which means that both my rapid reflexes and the distinctive fighting style that I use will be strengthened. I have used observation on the noble phantasms. Apex Dream, a Greed Reality Marble, which gives the ability to store animal and phantasm species information, can switch to stored species or create hybrid shapes while targeting specific properties. The Law of Nature, B. The ability to force the concept of death and mortal laws to immortal creatures. While the first option seems good, I prefer owning my own reality marble instead of taking another one. The second option sounds more than good. Now I can kill people who don't follow the laws of death and life like Tiamat, Thula, and the ultimate ones. I choose Instinct A, Annihilation Wish A+, and the Law of Nature B. My next goal was supposed to be Lust in France, but instead I changed my destination from France to Greece, where I decided to take care of sloth first. This was due to several reasons, the most important of which is that while the goal of lust is to collect the largest number of slaves and assistants, the goal of sloth is to eat as many people as possible. In terms of the risk measure, I believe sloth is one step above lust. I could not have guessed any abilities that Sloth might have, given that his name is somewhat mischievous. However, I do not think he would be so strong, especially against someone like me. None of the sins were really weak. The reason I was able to defeat them without any real difficulty was that I was very strong. First, my combat style was based on taking advantage of all my physical abilities with reinforcement magecraft, and it was based on predicting opponent movements and analyzing his style of fighting and build an effective counter strategy while absorbing his fighting style in mine at the same time. In addition to possessing both thought acceleration, rapid reflexes, and instinct, this makes it difficult for most of my opponents who are physically stronger than me to even think about touching me. As a magus, I'm also very powerful. My modern magecraft has reached a level where its destructive power is compared to true magic, and I also learned the special kind of magecraft that Medea used that was as powerful as true magic too, and I developed it further. And do not forget that I also possess true magic from the Age of the Gods that controls teleportation. In modern times, only the Holy Grail in the Wars of the Holy Grail can use something close to teleportation, and even then the teleportation of the Holy Grail is not real and does not follow any logic. The difference between the true magic from the Age of the Gods and the true magic from the human era is that the latter is acquired by approaching the root, and the first is by using formulas and rules to make true miracles that normal magecraft can't do. The teleportation that I use works by passing through the fourth dimension to move from point A to point B in an instant. Medea needed to attract mana from Ryuta Temple in order to move through the fourth dimension, but my OD is more than enough for that. My necklace also works like command seals, so it can move me without any rule as long as some mana is provided. On the other hand, true magic in modern times works by making the creation of a real miracle without following any physical rules or laws, such as how the second magic can move between parallel universes and timelines. Of course, even true magic from the modern era has its occurrence, such as how Zelrich cannot get out of parallel universes and go to the Thulai universe or to the Earth from which I came. While true magic can be used to push magus abilities beyond natural limits, they are not absolute. Zelrich is lucky that he ingested the blood of the Crimson Moon or he would have died from his injuries, and even if he survived he would have died of old age afterwards. Also, even the true magicians still have to use their magic circuits, so Kiritsuga can defeat them if he can hit them with a bullet of his origin. And if Kaire is given both the Black Barrel and the Command Seals and the Black Keys he can defeat the Zelrich if he is lucky and use certain strategies. After all, Zelrich still a dead apostle. True magicians are not very overpowerful as some believe. Yes, they may be able to travel through time, or move between parallel universes, or remain in the physical plane after the death of their bodies, but this does not mean that they cannot be killed by any other powerful person. On the other hand, I can only imagine how strong I will be after obtaining true magic like the third magic. Only then will I be able to benefit from my full potential. Not so long ago, I started using my time element in a similar way to Kiritsugu, by creating a fake reality marble inside my body to accelerate or slow down my inner time. With some additions, due to the massive amount of mana, I could have stopped or slowed time in the area surrounding me for several moments. When I get Heaven's Feel, I may be able to pause time in the entire universe. At that time it does not matter whether you own Magic Blue or Kaleidoscope. Also, obtaining the third magic is not a big problem for me. But let's go back to the main topic. The situation in Greece was very dangerous. There was an epidemic that spread quickly and in the surrounding countries, so the borders were closed and there was a quarantine. The epidemic itself was not fatal. Instead, it causes humans to lose their rationality and attack any sane person close to them, so that doctors could not detect the epidemic in the bodies of patients. When I analyzed the patients, I discovered that they do not possess spirits within them and their bodies are moved due to a rare and spread curse. Then I began to notice that there are many other mages looking at the subject. Upon studying the curse up close, I noticed that she was not killing the person afflicted with her, but rather transforming his soul into energy that is transported somewhere. When using predictive rituals, I could not find the place of laziness anywhere because there are millions of people with a curse. So I had to kidnap some of the injured to perform a lot of ritual return to origin in order to know where the magic energy derived from burning human lives is transferred. Sloth was a creature that had to be destroyed. If it was left for several more months, the entire humanity would be destroyed. Mephisto is truly a genius. In order to ensure that the Aleia did not send a counter-guardian so early, that he created the spiritual essence of the sins from human souls, and gave each one a real body linked to nature and not made with mana. Like that wrath was a dragon, that envy was a worm, and greed was a phantasm beast, and as for Sloth, it seemed to be a slime. He had high physical resistance because of his own body, but he was very slow, and while I could not harm him physically, I was able to burn him completely. By killing him I gained independent action A and subversive activities B, and also NP is called the Apocalypse's curse, which is basically the same curse that quickly spread. For all magical energy, it seems that the Sloth has a skill whose only goal is to send the magical energy collected from human souls to Mephisto. It is hard to imagine what he would do with all that energy, but I suppose it is a problem for another day. I wiped the black blood from my face and I pushed the holy spear, Rongominiad, into the heart of the fifth sin, lust. It was a little difficult to defeat her, not because she was very strong, but because she was hiding on an island and ruled as a queen after she had transformed all her inhabitants into demonic monsters. The moment I stepped in the island, she sent all her abomination demons to kill me, and since they were not human anymore, I did not mind to do genocide. While the fighting abilities of lust were very low, perhaps at the D level only, she was so beautiful and so tempting that I almost fell in love with her, and I am sure that she had a skill that raised my own craving because I was very craving. However, no matter how beautiful she was, I still have things to do, and places to be, so the moment I got close to her I grabbed her arm from her body in a brutal way. From the look that was in her face, she didn't expect that. She might have thought it was enough to make me really fall in love with her, and perhaps she was really close. The only thing is that my will are too strong to be affected by one beautiful girl, especially since there is a girl I really like. Of course I would have fallen into her spell if her appearance did not suggest that she is lewd, especially since I am a 16-year-old teenager, but at the end of the day I had to kill her and so I killed her. It is just one devil. You killed one of the sins, lust. You gained 1.700,000 EXP. You have reached level 82. Total statistical points, 20. You killed one of sins, lust. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Charisma, sex, A. Hormones, B+++. Natural body, C. Robust health, X. Shapeshifting, A. Noble phantasm. Monster's womb, C+. The mother of the perfect Bayan, A+++. Single temptation, E. I looked at the skill list carefully. I immediately eliminated both charisma, sex, and the hormones, first, because they weren't practical options, and again, I really don't want to attract many other sexes to me, thinking about my lower half just wasting time that I can use it to increase my strength or make my future easier. Shapeshifting would be really useful, but I can use magecraft to simulate its effects, such as how I changed my shape before I started hunting for sins, so even if the people watching me have revealed my achievements, they will not know that I am Victor Von Doom and I will remain anonymous for them. The remaining options are the natural body, which will give me a normal athletic body without worrying about calories, and also robust health, which included poison resistance and resistance to mites, and my endurance feature will increase for that if C were going to be B, and this without affecting body stats of mine. I used observation on the 3 noble phantasms. Monster's womb, C plus the ability to make an external womb separate from the body to transform humans into demons of skill user. The mother of the perfect being, A+++ reality marble works as a womb. By collecting enough creatures and animals, the best traits can be extracted to form the ultimate creature. Single temptation, E a one-use ability, which can be used to surely entice someone, can be resisted by magic resistance rank A or by strong will. I looked at the options carefully. I was not the type of person to kidnap humans and convert them into demons, and I also didn't want to become a mother. Really, what do these sins possess on perfection? Also, the third option may be a lifesaver in the future. I picked both the robust health and the natural body, and single temptation. Since the sins are dead, our deal is over and now, I'm going away, he said gluttony as he brought out 6 legs of a spider from its sides. I looked at gluttony with a smile. Of course, our deal is over. I just want you to know that you were really helpful. Binge remained frozen for a moment before saying before it began to run. Don't tell me that you will kill me. We made a deal, and you defeated pride. Unable. Who knows, I'm going to try my luck, I said loudly before I hit him with several Gundra bullets that he threw to hit the wall. Without moving around, I kept hitting him with Gandra bullets repeatedly until I heard the game saying that I had killed him. Although it helped me, this does not change the fact that it is still a sin and I must kill it, just as leaving it alive to be associated with another human will only cause his attempt to gather all magic knowledge, which will weaken mankind in return, and also, he may try to make new demons. You killed a sin, gluttony, gained 1,200,000 EXP. You have reached level 83. Total statistical points, 22. You have killed one of sins, gluttony. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Natural insight, A. Hypothetical inference, B. Noble phantasm. Eating, knowledge, A. Opponent strength, X. Gluttony belly, X. I looked for options. There was no point in really thinking about the skills because they are both good and there is no other option, so I used observation on noble phantasms. It is possible that gluttony has a good thing. Eating, knowledge, A. The ability to absorb magical books, mystic codes, and noble phantasms in order to preserve their knowledge and their history, with a small percentage to acquire properties of the purpose that was absorbed. Opponent strength, X. The ability to see people's statistics in terms of strength, agility, endurance, luck, mana, NP. Gluttony belly, X. The ability to reach an impressive space that can be used to store things, not suitable for living things. I looked at the options. The first option is very good, but I have already learned everything I need to learn, and I own my inventory for the third option. I chose opponent strength, natural insight, and hypothetical inference. You have completed main mission, the unholy sins of humankind. Description: in order to spread ruin and sin among humankind, Satan Mephisto created 6 powerful creatures to do work for him. Subject: hunt and kill each one of them. Goal 1: kill Wrath in the African desert. Goal 2: kill Sloth in Greece. Goal 3: kill the Lust in France. Goal 4: kill Greed in America. Goal 5: kill Gluttony in London. Goal 6: kill Envy in America. Rating: perfect. Basic reward: 20 million EXP. Bonus reward: 3x rank upgrade card. You have reached level 90. Total statistical points, 36. You can choose 3 perks. Rank upgrade card, a single-use item that can be used to raise a noble phantasm's rank once. This bonus is very good, especially since I now have 36 points for free use, and I can choose 3 new perks, but currently I will upgrade my noble phantasms in order to prepare for confronting pride. I really hope it is as strong as gluttony says, although I love the fact that I a little strong, but the fact that I never had opportunities to use my true strength before still bothered me. In any case, most of my noble phantasms either have their rank does not matter or their rank X is like Rungomyniad and Avalon and opponent strength. So the noble phantasms worthy of promotion are Knight of Honor and Metal Dragon Force. Regardless of these, there is also the law of nature, and although people with high magic resistance can resist it, no one can really escape from its effect. Single temptation was not worth upgrading either. First, I don't think there is a difference between the E and the D ranks, and secondly, the opponent's temptation in combat will only make him realize that I used some skill to make him fall in love with me and this will not be good. Third, I really count on seduction to win. The Apocalypse's curse is not an option either, since I am a human and not a creature designed to preserve the scales of nature like demons. The beginning of the end of the world will make me an enemy of both Gaia and Aleia, and although I am stronger than most heroic spirits and the counter guardians, I do not think that I can defeat an army of heroic spirits that are not restricted by the system of classes. Of course, some servants are stronger than their originals, such as the fact that the demon Angra Mainyu inside the Holy Grail is much stronger than the heroic spirit Angra Mainyu found in the Throne of Heroes. Of course I just can't say this because there are different versions of heroic spirits. Like the fact that the soul of the dead saber within Avalon that is inside, of course there is a copy version that made in her DJ in the Throne of Heroes, but the original Pendragon Artoria is inside me. Heroic souls are not obligated to go to the Throne of Heroes, so even though the true heroic spirit Artoria exists inside, however, a copy was made after her death on the Throne of the Heroes, which is similar to the case of Prelady. There are also people like Scathatch and Merlin who have never died but who have become heroic spirits due to people's belief in them, and in both cases it is possible to summon both Arturia or Scathatch or Merlin when certain requirements are met, which is why Arturia was summoned from Avalon in the Fourth Holy War. However, going back to the topic, Metal Dragon Force is a good choice, not only that it makes noble phantasms under the B rank useless, but there is a small percentage to cancelling the effects of the B rank because Wrath was not affected by my Gibidhi. However, I will not upgrade it because there are much better versions like God Hand, the 12 Labors. On the other hand, Knight of Honor is a very good choice. In its current level any weapon I carry including vehicles and tools like wooden and metal sticks turns into a noble phantasms of the D rank, and any noble phantasm that can be carried like Rungomyniad gets a slight boost in its total strength when using the Knight of Honor. In the end, I decided to use a single rank upgrade card on the Knight of Honor and keep the 2 additional cards in case I received a noble phantasms worth the upgrade in the future. Name, Knight of Honor. User, Lancelot, Victor Von Doom. Type, Anti-Unit. Rank, X. Range, 1. Maximum number of targets, 30. Although the description didn't say much, I, as the owner of ability, could have known its real changes. Every weapon I held in my hands would become a noble phantasm of the C rank, while in the case of holding a noble phantasm even if it was at the X rank, all his abilities would be strengthened by at least twice. Well, Knight of Honor promotion was a very good choice. Now, my 6th feeling that works with instinct and the eye of the mind, true, as well as many other things, tells me that I have to hurry up before something bad happens. Since I can choose new perk, I decided to search for something useful in the perks list. Perks. Iron Skin, the ability to temporarily convert the composition of the skin of the user into iron. Well fed, in the event that the owner's belly is full, a 100% increase in the regeneration metal. Inventor, increase the effectiveness of both the skill of territory creation and item construction. Who needs oxygen? The first level gives the ability to breathe underwater. Concealment, the ability to prevent others from knowing the true amount of your magical power, enhancing the skill of being concealment. Animal friend, animals and phantasm species do not attack you if you do not provoke them. Battle crazy, the more damage the owner receives in battle, the more statistic he increases. The third eye, having a third eye in the middle of your forehead gives you a certain level of prediction and an increase in perception. The enemy of the spirits, an increase in damage against spiritual creatures such as ghosts, whose attacks have a conceptual feature. I chose the enemy of the spirits. For every other perks, each one either has side effects or it does not suit me, such as a crazy fight which requires me to receive damage while my style requires that I avoid damage, or Iron Skin, which is a useless skill because I can destroy iron with a single punch and, with my choice of one perk now, I can choose 2 features at a later time. I quickly closed my case and I turned around facing the guest iron that appeared in the room. He was a man with a red pimple and black hair with demonic merits. Mephisto. I calmly said when I got to know him. Mephisto smiled with amusement. Yes, it is me. Surprisingly, you got to know me in my current form. I really hope I can stay like this but I'm not here for this. I looked at him without speaking or showing any expression. Unlike the last time I saw him, Mephisto was very different, not only his voice and appearance, but his personality as well. Anyway, I just want to thank you before I kill you. After all, without your help, maybe no one will be able to kill my 6 sins, and therefore, I will never be able to complete my rituals. he said while he closed one eye and left one eye open. What do you mean? I asked her without any expression on my face. Oh, in order to answer your question, I have to go back 2,000 years ago from now. Before I seal myself, I prepared special rituals that depend on making 6 sins to wreak havoc on Earth only to be killed by a hero, and after killing them from someone, the ritual will be completed and the end result is that I will be transferred to the 7th sin, pride, and now, all thanks to you, I am really thankful to you. The problem is, although I am currently the most powerful entity in the world, thanks to you, of course, I still have to do many things before I can become the true god of this world. He was silent and looked at me for several seconds. Won't you ask me what I'm planning to do? I sighed while I noticed that Mephisto was completely changed from his serious character that he had 6 years ago. So what's your plan? He laughed. 2 plans in reality. The first is to start the Age of the Gods again because the mystery in this era seems to disappear in any second. The second is to kill you and all your family in order to recover my energy that has been transmitted in your family bloodline for a while. Only by way of reclaiming 0.00001% of my power that in your family, I can feel complete again. I looked at him coldly and pulled out several knives from my inventory. What? Do you think you can beat me? Mephisto said lightly, and after one moment his shape changed completely. His skin became white and he had 2 big demonic horns over his head while he was wearing a long black robe and floating his body several centimeters from the surface of the earth. You really are an idiot. Looking at the new Mephisto shape, I used both opponent strength and medium awareness of the enemies to find out how strong he really is now. Real name, Mephisto. Type, Divine Spirit, Evil of Men. Source, Christianity. Region, Heaven. Alignment, Chaotic Evil. Hidden Attribute, Heaven. Parameter, Strength, A. Endurance, X. Agility, C. Mana, X. Luck, A+++. NP, X. Class Skills. Authority of Beasts, X. Independent Manifestation, X. Self-Modification, X. Personal Skills. Item Construction, X. Territory Construction, A+++. Clairvoyant, A+++. Magecraft, A. High-Speed Divine Words, A. Magic Resistance, A. The Eye of the Mind, False, A+++. Memory Correction, A+++. Self-replenishment, A+++. Against Mother Nature, A+++. Negapride, X. Global Language, X. Battle Continuation, B. Illusionism, A+++. Divinity, X. NP. Hell, A. Gluttony, X. Lust, X. Sloth, X. Greed, X. Envy, X. Wrath, X. I looked at his skills with shock. I was expecting that he would be mostly a demon or a fallen angel at best, but he is in fact a divine spirit with a very high divinity, and even that he is an evil of men, which means that he gets good skills like the authority of beasts that give him harm bonus when fighting against people of a humankind like me. Even at the X level, people like Mephisto require at least a grand servant with the help of many divine spirits and other heroic spirits. What do Alea and Gaia do in times like these? They don't think just a mortal like me can defeat Mephisto, right? From what I remember, even Tiamat and Gaia do not have that many skills and noble phantasms. Since an object like this has entered into Earth, I bet that every spiritual creature in the world including the phantasm species has felt it, perhaps even the 27 dead apostle. Hey, Mephisto, before you start killing me, can I ask you something? I spoke slowly, taking advantage of the fact that he seemed very arrogant after his transformation. Of course, anything for you. He smiled at me, but looking at him it seemed that he was making fun of me. Why didn't you perform your rituals before you were sealed inside the magic crest? I was planning on that, but I was defeated before I could start the rituals and the magic system in which my original body was working was destroyed by a bullet. Now, the time for talk is over. He said he would quickly turn his hand towards and throw very fast white energy attacks towards me. I used my instinct, the eye of the mind, true, and rapid reflexes to distort my perception of time and increase my reactions in order to successfully avoid his attacks. I activated my mystic eyes of death perception and looked towards Mephisto just to be surprised that Mephisto no longer had death lines anymore. It seemed that Mephisto noticed that I had activated my mystic eyes, so he stopped sending mana attacks to me temporarily and spoke. Surprised, isn't it? Likewise, I no longer follow the natural order of life and death, so your eyes no longer influence me. I started dodging his attacks again. So long as I came close to it, I could use the law of nature to give him the concept of death. I decided to use my true abilities and stop playing. I deactivated my magic circles and started using high-speed divine words that enable me to use magecraft without paying attention to the fundamentals and basics and without speaking. And also, with a wave of magical energy passing over my body, Doom armor appeared on me. Only with these procedures did my capabilities increase a lot. I can summon the dragon from Dragon Fleece, but it's very weak and almost useless. Instead, I extracted a copy of Gibadhi from my inventory. Given that Mephisto has no skill denies noble phantasms, I can get untreated wounds if I can use the law of nature on him. With my enhanced abilities, I responded to the mana attacks through my shield, and due to my current magic resistance I wasn't receiving much damage, and while I avoided some attacks, his shots were fast enough to hit me several times, but I was protected before shield. When there were a few meters separating us, I could use the law of nature, otherwise I could touch it, but he made a Jian-type sword in his hand. I was about to ignore him, but his sword began to glow white and I felt in danger, so I took out Rongomyniad and fended off. I am a sword. The impact force was enough to send shockwaves in the surrounding areas, and it seems I interrupted his attack. I started a gun collision with him using Rongomyniad as a sword. With every collision, shockwaves are sent around, and although we did not use our full physical strength, my calculations say that with my use of Doom armor I can compare his full strength with me. After a few seconds, he went back and started his sword shining faster than before. This time I couldn't stop him, so I tried to avoid his attack. Envy, a blade that cuts the world, Mephisto quickly said in less than a second before waving his sword. His sword attack was like a compressed air blade that was sent towards me. It was very fast, and the only reason I could avoid it was by predicting the path of the attack and responding to it before it started. I looked behind me and noticed that the compressed blade had crossed the entire island in less than a second with a cut. Anything standing in its way, including corpses, buildings, and the ground, even continued to go in the water. Did he just use Noble Phantasm? This was not a compressed air blade, it was an attack that went through the layers of reality, which gave him absolute cutting force and very high speed. If my reaction was delayed for a split second, this attack would cut off both my shield and me. Mephisto quickly flew away from me to the sky before saying, "Sloth, the tree rebuilding the world." Near me a tree started with its roots and branches growing from the ground. I started avoiding the roots of the tree that started to grow from the ground beneath me, and I started avoiding the mana attacks that Mephisto was sending towards me. Of course I was sending Gandra shots towards him, but it was not causing any grip due to the endurance and magic resistance statistic. After about 15 minutes of dodging his attacks and not leaving any of the tree's roots wrapping around me, the tree finally grew completely, was gray in color with blue veins in all parts of the tree with a length of more than 60 meters and a width of 20 meters. Mephisto was sending envy attacks. It took me every few minutes, but I could have predicted its course and evaded. It was difficult to avoid the attacks that were sent consecutively, but I survived. While I was wondering what the tree was, I decided to take advantage of the new geographical feature and I inserted both Gibidhi and Rongomyniad into my inventory and boosted my speed limit before I started running on the tree in order to build momentum and challenge gravity. Of course, in order to reach Mephisto. Accelerating X4, I used my time component to accelerate my speed 4 times. This method was sufficient to destroy all of my muscles and internal organs, and while Avalon heals me almost instantly, the pain was enough to drive me crazy. When I reached the same height as Mephisto, I jumped over it, and I made a mana slide from under my feet to push me into the air more. Rain of Light, Makia Hakashia Greya. Violet circles appeared behind me and I launched several mana attacks with each shot containing a power of 3.000 OD. He made a magic barrier in front of him, but I ran out of opportunity and stopped time in a 50-meter radius. Normally, I can pause the time for a few seconds, but since an object like Mephisto is in my field I may be able to pause it for just 1 second, but that is enough for me. I created a magical explosion under my feet, pushing myself over the armor of Mephisto, and punching it with my fullest force, the law of nature. At this point, time began to move again, and Mephisto was sent back to Earth while I cruelly fell on my feet. Clever? Really clever. As he returned to float several meters above the ground, Mephisto said, "At that time I felt as if I had missed something. It was a manipulation of time. Boy, you exceeded my expectations, but even as you forced the concept of death to me." I interrupted his words by taking a copy of Gibidhi and throwing it at him, but he avoided it. He looked at me, Lust, the mother of all creatures. The ground beneath it began to turn into black clay, which began to expand in all other places. I stood on one of the tree roots in order not to be touched by the clay that covered the half of the island in a few seconds. I was wondering what the Noble Phantasm was, but it seemed I had no question because of the black clay. Familiar monsters began to form, black dragons with glowing red eyes, many copies of Wrath. Curse, I said while I removed a dagger from my inventory. I also activated my mystic eyes of death perception and killed the first dragon that attacked me. Because dragons are phantasm species, I get a big boost in strength against them because of Monster Hunter 2 and Dragon Slayer C. I started using both my strength and my extreme speed to kill any dragon in sight, storing their bodies in my inventory by touching them in passing. Dragons are very useful and valuable creatures. After a while, I realized that I had to finish spawning the dragons, or it wouldn't be my defeat. Because of Avalon, Magecraft, and Doom armor I could have fought until now, but I had to end it. I jumped over the dragons by using the dragons' bodies as a jump floor, and pushed myself further than that through Magecraft until I reached the level of the clouds and I took out the Holy Spear from my inventory. Rongomyniad, the lance that shines to the ends of the world? By activating my Noble Phantasm, my spear began to shine more brightly and pushed me towards the bottom, towards Mephisto, and due to our speed and magical energy I became like a meteor accelerating downward. Asterisk boom asterisk asterisk boom asterisk. When I collided with the earth, there was an explosion enough to destroy a large castle, and I could take Mephisto with me from the sky towards the ground and hit him directly, while possessing the concept of death. Maybe he was seriously injured, and all the dragons were killed. The womb of lust was destroyed, and although the tree was badly damaged it still stood. Stealing Rongomyniad was really a good choice, so it is not considered stealing because Rongomyniad does not belong to anyone, and in the future I will become Rongomyniad, so it really does matter. You, asterisk coughing asterisk brat. Mephisto said that he was floating a few meters away from me, and although his lower half did not exist, his upper half was completely unscathed. Looking at him now only makes me stress my hand on the holy spear. Mephisto was not weak and perhaps at least as strong as Tiamat or Gotia. This only confirms my strength and Rongomyniad's strength, and this without using the Knight of Honor in order to enhance his strength. It is difficult to imagine that the strength of the spear would be strengthened after I became Rongomyniad. Gluttony, a belly that is never full? Mephisto said angrily. Behind me, tens of meters behind me, a black hole appeared and began to attract everything towards it, including the land, tree trunks, and distant sea water. I began running to escape from being absorbed. Perhaps because of his noble phantasm, Mephisto was not withdrawn and he started taking advantage this is in rebuilding his lower body. I could resist the force of pulling the black hole to a certain level, but it was slowly being pulled to it. After about 10 seconds the black hole stopped absorbing things and exploded forcefully. This was close, and while I wanted to stop to grab my breath I had to prevent Mephisto from completing the repair himself. Acceleration X4 I used my time magecraft to double my speed and I ran toward Mephisto while I entered Rongomyniad in my inventory and I took out a random blade. I tried to cut the death lines attached to his head, but he kept blocking the praying with his hand, which enabled me to cut the death lines connected to his arm. I noticed the pain in his face, but he made the sword of envy in his other hand and tried to cut him off, but I retreated several meters in order to avoid him. He again waved the sword next to him, but a pressed blade attack was not made. Instead a black slit was opened in space that Mephisto had entered before being closed. I breathed deeply as I ignored the unbearable pain coming from all of my bones, muscles, and internal organs. Did he run away? Does this mean that my problem is no longer and will be taken care of by Alea and Gaia? I sat on the ground and looked at the surrounding places. This rug was beautiful in the past, but only from my battle with Mephisto. Both the town and the forest were destroyed completely, and the earth looked like a nuclear bomb was thrown here with the burning earth, while there is black clay still boiling. I just realized now that I am tired, not physically, instead mentally. At every moment when I fight Mephisto I felt like I was going to die at any moment, and this is absolutely true. I have to completely destroy the tree and collect any remains of the dragons before fleeing, while I still keeping the illusion on my face, but I cannot risk that someone with mystic eyes can see through illusions may come. I felt in danger so I stood up and tightened my hand around the Rongomyniad handle immediately. When I looked up to the sky I saw Mephisto who seemed to be completely healed. Over and over again, you kept surprising me, and because of my own arrogance you was about to end my presence. He closed his eyes before saying no more. Nega pride. I sent several intense mana shots toward him, but before it collided with him his entire body was surrounded by a purple cocoon that completely covered him and isolated him from the outside world. I wondered what his skill was. Every servant of the beast type possesses a skill called a nega, like that Gotia possesses immunity from magecraft, or that Kamamara can make the entire universe love her sexually, and from beast to another the effects of this skill vary with the difference in her name. Since Mephisto was surrounded in a cocoon, I would expect that in a transformation of some kind. This was not strange because most servants like Tiamat possessed multiple phases, with each transformation increasing their strength dramatically. Previously, Mephisto had an air advantage, and since he was much stronger than me he was about to kill me many times, and if his strength increased again and kept his ability to fly, I would be destroyed. There is a possibility that he will lose his flying ability, but I do not think my luck statistic is high enough to rely on that, and in fact, I prefer to rely on myself. I quickly created a small summon circle in the ground and took out the golden fleece from my inventory and put it in the circle and started repeating the summons words while infusing a huge amount of magical energy into the wool. Unlike media that did not possess the knowledge required to summon the guardian spirit, the Kalchi's dragon, located inside the wool, spent a lot of time making a very simple summoning ritual for this. Even I do not have the knowledge required to summon a dragon. The ritual that I use is that I send my magic energy to annoy the dragon and force him out. Of course he can ignore the matter, but at that time the golden fleece will be destroyed because of the mana I use, and since the Kalchi's dragon was a guardian spirit, a mixture of a human soul and a dragon spirit, must maintain the presence of the golden fleece or his soul will be absorbed in Akasha. Mephisto cocoon slowly began to peel off, but fortunately a 20-meter dragon was formed in front of me, with golden wool covering his back, and a grey-skinned chest. He had a small horn in the middle of his forehead as well, but his eyes showed an intelligence different from wrath. "Who dares disturb me?" he said with an angry and upset voice and focused his eyes on me. Time was raging on me. I looked at him with more annoyance. This dragon was just a guardian spirit that can be considered a low-level dragon. It did not even develop into a holy spirit. In front of Mephisto it is almost useless, and if it was not because of his wings behind his back I would not have thought of it even as an option spare. "Listen, we don't have time to chat. If you don't help me now it is not only you who will die, but even me, and I do not want death now. The fate of the world depends on your wings. You're not from Kalchi's, how did you get me out?" he said while he looked at me. "Look over there. Do you think this time is right for your dragon pride?" I was pointing towards the Mephisto cocoon, which was full of cracks, until it started to slowly fall apart. A creature like this should not be in this world," he said with surprise and wide eyes when he felt the enormous magical energy coming from Mephisto. I shrugged his expression and quickly jumped on his back without paying attention to his or her disagreement. "Well, we must survive so we can argue later. Kalchi's dragon was upset and angry, but it seemed to understand that we were not in a position to be in disagreement. He said before he started flying with me in the back, "You can call me Arjun." At this moment the cocoon exploded, revealing the new shape of Mephisto. Its size increased and its frame became similar to Hercules, while its lower half became transparent and seemed to be made of ether, still wearing a long black robe, but now it has taken a different shape showing its chest, and there is a blue glow in the middle of his chest. 2 horns became clearly larger and had sharp fangs, so that the features of his face changed slightly. He also have now wings without feather that glow with violet. I activated Mystic Eyes of Death Perception in order to find out if the effect of my law of nature is still effective. Fortunately it is still that despite the death lines only present in the chest. Then I used an opponent's strength to know the differences between his previous self and now. Real name, Mephisto. Type, God, evil of man. Source, Christianity. Region, heaven. Alignment, chaotic evil. Hidden attribute, heaven. Parameter, strength, A. Endurance, X. Agility, A. Mana, X. Luck, X. NP, X. Class skills. Authority of beasts, X. Independent manifestation, X. Self-modification, X. Personal skills. Item construction, X. Territory construction, A+++. Clairvoyant, A+++. Magecraft, A. High-speed divine words, A. Magic resistance, A+. The eye of the mind, false, A+++. Memory correction, A+++. Self-replenishment, A+++. Against Mother Nature, A+++. Negapride, X. Global language, X. Battle continuation, X. Conceptual resistance, C. God's immunity, A+. Illusionism, A+++. Divinity, X. Monstrous strength, X. Angel core, X. NP. Hell, A. Gluttony, X. Lust, X. Sloth, X. Greed, X. Envy, X. Wrath, X. I looked at his condition while noting that, regardless of the reinforcement he got most of his skills, and regardless of the brutal power and essence of the angel, he did not get anything else, but I should not rely on this. His strength was greatly enhanced, and do not forget that he took the next step in the path of divinity. He somehow became a god, a creature that should not exist at this era. Argus released a golden dragon breath toward Mephisto, but the latter pointed his hand toward us and a magic wall appeared in front of him blocking the attack. Roar Mephisto suddenly cried out sharply. His screaming seemed to be strong enough to freeze both Argus and me, even that the world seemed to be shaking. I controlled Argus by pulling his golden wool and forcing him to turn back. He easily obeyed me, but at this moment Mephisto formed a white spear and launched it toward us quickly. Through the eye of the mind and instinct I could predict the path of the spears, and by speeding up the thought I could compute the best way to avoid them, and by rapid reflexes I could drive Argus perfectly despite not having the skill to drive. I led Argus towards Mephisto while tightening my hand around the Rongomyniad handle. Mephisto created the Sword of Envy in his right hand and waved against my spear. Again, a shock wave was created that pushed my back slightly, but we continued to exchange blows by our weapon while we were flying in please. With each collision, I was the most affected person, even thanks to the strong reinforcement that Doom armor and runes provide him, and I was barely at the same level of strength as Mephisto. On some occasions, I used to create intense purple mana balls and sent them to Mephisto. Sometimes he was injured, and on occasion he sent his mana attacks towards me. After some time in this case, Mephisto moved away from me several tens of meters before looking at me, opened his mouth and a ball of pure mana gathered in front of him and in less than a second the mana ball turned into a ray that I could not completely avoid. While I was able to save me and Argus, the beam crossed through my left arm and destroyed it before colliding with the sea several kilometers behind me and the latest explosion equivalent to a nuclear bomb threw Argus and I forward. I ignored the pain from losing my left arm and used my right hand to make Argus regain balance and I made him lead me toward Mephisto again. In the next seconds my arm was replenished by Avalon, although the high-speed regeneration process was very painful, but I assume this is better than staying disabled. I used projection magecraft to recreate the Doom armor and used my new hand to make a lightning shaft. Lightning magecraft was not a common thing among magus, not only that learning it is very difficult, but that it is easy to hurt yourself when using it, as it does not obey the user easily, so although it is present, most thaumaturgical schools do not recognize it as something really. The only good is his high offensive strength. I shot a lightning shaft toward Mephisto, but he simply ignored him because of his magical resistance. Argus, I want you to disperse it for 10 seconds. I said I am the dragon I fly over. No, I will die in 6 seconds. He said. Argus, 6 seconds, you are a dragon, use your pride. I told him before I jumped from his back towards the sky and used my fire runes to create an explosion below me. I used the Knight of Honor on Rongomyniad to increase his strength. Rongomyniad, the lance that shines to the ends of the world. Rongomyniad began using my magic power to build his own attack. I immediately directed my attack towards Mephisto and my spear, Rongomyniad, began to turn into a magical comet towards him. Argus chased me down and went back into the Golden Fleece. While Mephisto noticed me and tried to dodge, he was hit and pushed by me towards the ground as the reinforced Rongomyniad attack caused the entire island explosion. I lost consciousness for a few seconds before waking up with tinnitus in my ear. As soon as I did so, I noticed that I was floating on the surface of the water, so I used the spell that Medea was using for floating in the air. I did not receive a notice to kill Mephisto, so it must be alive. I looked around and could not find it. Not before I was caught by a huge hand from my chest. Mephisto appeared in front of me gradually, apart from his left hand that became large enough to cover my chest. He was in a miserable state. Both his horns were destroyed, while his right half was completely destroyed, and his left wing was missing, while his right wing glow was visibly weaker. This is so humiliating, Mephisto said angrily as he pressed my armor with enough force to make him start to crack. I, the god of the new world, has been defeated again and again by a mortal man like you. I cannot believe this. Rain of light, Makia Hakashia. I launched frequent hiccups without stopping. Mephisto could not avoid, while he pressured my armor to be destroyed, but he released me after a few seconds. I quickly pulled back, but I didn't stop shooting. Rain of light, Makia Hakashia. You will die, and you will not die quickly. I heard Mephisto sound behind the smoke wall, and the next moment my right arm was cut off by a compressed air blade, forcing me to stop releasing rain of light. When the smoke cleared, Mephisto was there in no better condition, a little worse as he performed the rain of light, but he possessed the sword of envy in his hand. As he slowly progressed towards me, Avalon began renewing my arm while I tried to throw rain of light again, but he sent an air blade and cut my knees. Oh ha! I screamed painfully while Avalon started limiting my legs only. Now, I can barely keep myself floating in the air. I looked at him angrily and a little hate before I touched the necklace around my neck and activated its effect, Trufa, in order to move me away 10,000 meters. I disappeared from my previous place and appeared elsewhere, but I cannot stay here, and while Avalon is almost finished making my new organs, I continue to fly at my fullest speed towards the opposite direction of Mephisto. This was a great loss. Not only that I am tired mentally, I even experienced great physical pain and almost died, if not thanks to Avalon. I also lost my armor. The only thing that hasn't been destroyed is the mystic code in the form of a mask on my face that can change my look. I stopped running and escaping to the side, only half a second and I was cut in two. Fortunately I have the instinct A. I just turned to see Mephisto dozens of meters away. I immediately used a Knight of Honor on Rongomyniad before using it on Mephisto, but I didn't shoot myself with him and fired the spear alone. On his way towards Mephisto, the Rongomyniad turned into something like a meteor heading towards it. Rongomyniad was on the verge of hitting Mephisto, but the latter escaped at the last minute, causing Rongomyniad to continue his path away. Don't you do that proverb? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on. Mephisto spoke as he accelerated as he approached me, but I interrupted him suddenly. Alpha Tau Lambda Alpha? I pressed the atmosphere around Mephisto, causing it to freeze in place, but I did not stop there and prepared for another attack. Sigma Tau Lambda Eta Tau Omicron Rho Alpha Nu Omicron? This was not one of the media spells, but by following the same principle of forbidden magic that she uses, I can make a column of magical energy strike the enemy from the sky. A dense column of purple magical energy hit Mephisto from the sky, which made him scream constantly, but he kept looking at me angrily all the time. Thanks to my enormous magical energy, I could continue this attack for at least 25 continuous seconds. Unfortunately, Avalon does not help in regeneration mana. I was able to do a lot of damage to Mephisto as his remaining wing was completely broken and it seemed that his body had begun to melt, but on the other hand, my mana was almost running out. You, naughty. You will die in the most horrible way I can think of, Mephisto said as he stretched his hand towards my direction. His arm became bigger and longer, approached me in less than a second, grabbed me from my chest, and moved me toward Mephisto quickly. Now, it's my turn, he said as he pressed me and broke my arm bones and many of my ribs. Alpha Epsilon Rho Omicron? I pointed toward his face with my hand, which was not under my arm, and launched toward him a plague wind spell that hit him in the face. You filth, he said angrily while he threw me hard away. I collided several times with the water quickly and it was painful, especially that Avalon did not finish treating my broken bones, but I used the floating spell at the moment when I could. Thank you, Mephisto, I said with a smile on my face. You have to remember, I already fooled you twice, the third one is easy. He looked at me with a blank expression for a second before just looking behind him to see that Rongomyniad is heading straight towards him. Yes, I can control it after activating it. He tried to escape from the attack path, but I used Alpha Tau Lambda Alpha to freeze him in place and was hit by Rongomyniad. The last thing I remember is the bright light of Rongomyniad. I slowly opened my eyes and ignored the slight headache in my head and looked around where I was currently. Just a rock in my size surrounded by the endless ocean. I assume that this rock is the last remnant of that island that we fought over. This piece of land very lucky. Maybe her luck statistic is beyond X. In any case, I measured the position of the sun in the sky and I concluded that the time was around 5 in the evening, and if I remember well then before I started fighting against Mephisto it was 3.5 hours, and if we consider that I fought for 90 continuous minutes, I must be unconscious for at least 30 minutes. I touched my face and felt that the mask of illusion was still on me, which means that even if someone came here he did not find me and did not reveal my true identity as Victor Von Doom. Although I did not like to hide my identity and my accomplishments, something like hunting 6 sins and fighting a god is something that was not good to spread specifically, especially since many will seek to know how strong I am like this, and many may seek to steal my treasures. I raised my hand to the top and summoned Mirongominiad towards me by linking curse that I had previously placed on it. With a spear. I sat on the rock and opened the game notifications list. After all I had just gone through, I expect a decent reward and a decent increase in strength. You've completed a main mission, Man Against God. Description: you have reached the end of the road, your journey to hunt sins is over, but there is one final enemy and one final battle awaits you. Now the answer will be determined for the eternal question, man or God. Subject: fight Mephisto, win or die. Rating: perfect. Basic bonus: 20 million EXP. Bonus reward: Fairy Cloud. You have reached level 96. Fairy Cloud, a mythical clause said to be a compelling instrument for granting wishes, and although these are all lies, this clause can grant 3 small wishes. You killed a raging demonic dragon, you gain 650,000 EXP x 57. You have reached level 103. You can choose 3 new features. Monster Hunter 3 Advanced to Monster Hunter V. Dragon Slayer C Advanced to Dragon Slayer X. Name: Dragon Slayer. Rank: X. Description: at this level, this skill shows that you have made dragon hunting your only job. Not only are you getting a huge boost when confronting dragon-type enemies, but even anyone with a dragon character will feel terrified of you. You killed a god/evil of men Mephisto, you gained 40 million EXP. You have reached level 125. You can choose 5 new features. Total statistical points: 96. You killed a god, you got God Slayer A. Name: God Slayer. Rank: A. Description: this skill is super effective against divine spirits. A 2+ modifier is gained when attacking divine spirits, wraiths, and servants with the divinity skill. You killed evil of men, you got the title, Hero. Hero, a title given to people who not only saved humanity, but even the planet. Even if your brave deeds did not spread across the world, you will still be chosen to become a heroic spirit, although this requires your death first, a 10% increase in statistics when fighting enemies not human. You got Protection of the Ends of the World X. Name: Protection of the Ends of the World. Rank: X. Description: Victor, who possesses the Holy Lance that exists as an anchor to the planet, is receiving divine protection from the farthest ends itself. Other than mana and luck, all parameters temporarily rank up during battle. You have killed a god/evil of men, Mephisto. You can choose 3 skills and 2 noble phantasms. Skills: Authority of Beasts, X. Independent Manifestation, X. Self-Modification, X. Item Construction, X. Territory Construction, A+++. Clairvoyant, A+++. Magecraft, A. High-Speed Divine Words, A. Magic Resistance, A+. The Eye of the Mind, False, A+++. Memory Correction, A+++. Self-Replenishment, A+++. Against Mother Nature, A+++. Negapride, X. Global Language, X. Battle Continuation, X. Conceptual Resistance, C. God's Immunity, A+. Illusionism, A+++. Divinity, X. Monstrous Strength, X. Angel Core, X. Noble Phantasm, Hell, A. Gluttony, X. Lust, X. Sloth, X. Greed, X. Envy, X. Wrath, X. I looked at the long screen with wide eyes. Because of my fight against Mephisto, I expected to be rewarded with some great things, but not to this extent. Not only that I now have 96 points and I can choose 5 perks, but I even have new titles and skills that will be very useful in the future, especially the item that I was rewarded with. I immediately took the fairy cloud out of my stock and grabbed it in my left hand. It was a golden cloud the size of a tennis ball and it floated above 1 inch of my hand while golden dust fell from it. I looked at it with interest and thought about what my first wish would be. I wish Medea back to life, I said while I waited for any response from the cloud, but nothing happened. Well, I did not have to raise my hopes. Even the Holy Grail could not summon true heroic spirits, and the description of the clause said that only small wishes could be fulfilled. I wish I get the 3rd magic, I said again, but as expected, nothing happened. I could only think that this tool is useless. I hope to learn anti-spirit combat in the highest rank I can get, I said without raising my hopes, but contrary to expectations, the cloud glowed brightly for a second before dropping in size a little while I felt the familiar feeling of learning a new skill. You got an anti-spirit combat B. Name: Anti-Spirit Combat. Rank: B. Description: you learned several techniques to oppose villainous spirits. The mighty incarnations of heroic spirits that are servants aren't an exception. I looked at the fairy cloud with eyes and ribbons before entering it in my inventory. This thing will be very useful later. Now I have to choose skills and noble phantasms. I am a little surprised that I can choose a greater number now, but it seems like this is because I killed a god. Now for the skills, let's start with what I wouldn't choose. The 3 monster skills of course: Magecraft, Territory Creation, Clairvoyant, High-Speed Divine Word, Memory Creation, Self-Replenishment, Illusionism, and Divinity. The Negapride was grey, but I used observation on it and on the Global Language and Angel Core. Negapride, a skill dedicated to Mephisto. Upon activation, Mephisto retrieves some skills of his owners in X rank. New skills are given while some old ones are strengthened, and his presence is raised to God. So it looks like it's a custom skill just for Mephisto. No wonder I can't pick it. Angel Core, the essence of the angel's existence. While it does not increase the capacity of mana, but it gives an infinite battery at this level, while it also gives angel wings and the ability to create intense weapons of light, whereas Mephisto must not possess him in this rank except that Negapride made him get it, and while everyone can implant them in them, they will suffer side effects and die at the end of the day. So this is really a simplified form of the third magic that gives infinite mana, but I can't get it because of the after effects. Wow, I saved the world and almost can't get the best skill, though I won't need Arjun again. Global language, X the ability to ignore the language barrier and communicate fluently with others. At this level the barrier of both ancient, modern, future and space languages can be crossed. This skill may be useful in the future, but I prefer to have a skill that increases my strength directly. I used observation against Mother Nature and God's immunity. Against Mother Nature, A+++ sever all links with the planet, including removing the concept of death that was given by the planet. This looks very good, especially removing the concept of death, but I do have Avalon which gives me immortality, and as long as my brain is not destroyed I will never die. God's immunity, A+ immunity against any noble phantasms less than X rank, requires Divinity X. This is awesome, another skill I can't choose, very cool, although it's nice that I used Rongominiad or my attacks wouldn't be useless. I have used observation on noble phantasms. Hell is the reality marble that Mephisto possesses, although it belongs to him but it works as a separate dimension from the physical plane. Of course, he is independently of Mephisto. Gluttony, a belly that is never full, X the ability to open holes in the world. These holes have a large pulling force, but they cannot stay long because the world fixes them. Lust, mother of all creatures, X the ability to create a fall sea of life. As long as you know the exact composition of a life form, you can reproduce it as long as the appropriate amount of mana is provided. Sloth, the tree that rebuilds the world, X a tree that can discover the reverse side of the world and withdraw it to the material plane within 9 months. Thus the age of the gods will be reenacted, while the process will be greatly slowed when the tree is destroyed, but the process is not sustainable to stop. Greed, infinite greed, X it doubles the user's power infinitely, but in exchange for his mental well-being, at the end the fate of the user is the explosion. Envy, a blade that cuts the world, X an indestructible blade that can cut the fabric of the world itself, and make very fast attacks. Wrath, final annihilation, X summoning a meteor the size of the moon at a speed of 72 meters per second, with the sole purpose of destroying the planet. This noble phantasm can ignore the precautions of counter force. I looked at the options shockingly. I can't believe that Mephisto had such very good things, and it seems that the countdown to the age of the gods has begun, but I expect it will take many years. Now, I will exclude gluttony, lust, sloth, and greed, which makes me choose both envy and wrath. It is great to have a strong trump card. As for the skills, I chose Item Construction X, Battle Continuation X, and Monstrous Strength X. First, it would be nice to be able to do better. Second, Mephisto could have survived even as most of his body was destroyed and the rest of his body began to melt due to battle continuation. For the latter, it would represent a very big increase in my strength and durability. Now, I have to go home, my job is done, and now I have saved the world, but I miss the cold walls and atmosphere in the house. After what I went through today, I think I should take some kind of leave. I haven't had a rest before. Now, about how I got out of here. I can float up in the air, but summoning Argus and using it as a bus will be a lot faster. I drew a summons circle over the rock and put the golden fleece in the middle. I was about to start summoning rituals when it lit up blue light behind me. I looked behind me and saw a bright blue ball floating in the air. For some reason, I felt that looking at this light is the best thing that happened to me a while ago. I got to know this light, Alayashiki, but this was not the reason I felt. Just looking at the light entered calm and safety to my heart. Howdy. When I didn't know what was the best thing, I said, "Are you God?" Wrong. I heard I was a human voice, but it was completely emotional and it was not possible to determine whether the voice was for a male or female. I am the counter force, the collective unconscious of humanity, more commonly known as Alaya. Yes, I know, now you killed my joke. I said when I was sighed. I'm supposed to be scared or anxious, but just being near Alaya gave me a feeling of safety. I know this is just a fake feeling, but the fact that I didn't have to feel anxiety or fear gives me a great feeling. Congratulations, the human known as Victor Von Doom. Your accomplishments are so far that I can no longer ignore you. Ah, this is. I looked to her/him. Your mission is to defend humanity. Why haven't you interfered? I could not intervene directly against the 6 demonic spirits because they could be considered part of nature, and when the fallen angel became evil of men, I was planning to intervene, but according to my calculations, I decided to think that you could win that possibility of 9.87%. I see, but why are you talking to me directly? Aren't you supposed to have some great abilities like telepathy? Given that you are not part of the collective subconscious of humanity, you are outside of my authority. I ignored the fact that I was just called that I am not a human. Why are you here? Alaya spoke. Deal. I'm here to offer you a deal. You can become a grand counter guardian and take many advantages, such as going up a higher state of spiritual existence, infinite supplies of mana, registration in the throne of heroes, limited access to information of the collective subconscious of humanity. Even like a counter guardian, you will not have to leave your free will and you can do nothing except when humanity is at risk. I expanded my eyes. This was a very cool deal. I could become a counter guardian, a heroic spirit, without having to become a killing machine, and even offering me an endless supply of mana, but I refuse. I categorically said, to become a counter guardian means that my soul is stored in the throne of heroes so that many copies of me can be created, and I do not want this. The silence lasted for a minute before the collective subconscious of humanity spoke. You can become a living heroic spirit and enjoy the benefits without having to go to the throne of heroes, but you will get the benefits of the heroic spirit body while keeping your physical body. Although it is as a true heroic spirit, you will not be limited to the classes system. However, when your body is destroyed, your soul is still transferred to the throne of heroes. Well, let's think about it. You said I would be a Grand Counter Guardian. What does this mean? The Grand Counter Guardian is the top of the Counter Guardians. While you are not obligated to do anything, but you are forced to intervene against global threats similar to the fallen angel. What about summoning? The throne of heroes is out of time. Let's say I died in the future. Does this mean that I can be summoned now? I felt as though Alea was a little silent. No, as long as you are alive in this world, this will be a paradox that prevents you from being on the throne of heroes at the same time. Well, what about my mind? Will you be able to spy on my mind? I asked him while I wanted to know what the bad side is. Because of the contract that makes you get mana supplies from me, we will get a mental channel, but it is only for sending mental messages and it cannot be used to spy on your mind. Well, what are the negative effects? You will acquire the normal weaknesses of the heroic spirit, and gain weakness against weapons and conceptual skills, as you will gain instinct about what is dangerous to humanity, but it is not strong enough to change your own thoughts, and you must still intervene when fighting major threats. This just. Okay, I agree, you're my new boss. After I accepted Alea's deal, several strands of blue light came out of her spiritual body and stuck with my body and began to disperse in blue veins along my body. My transformation process was not painful in any way. If I wanted to describe it really, it was comfortable sort of thing. Being a counter guardian is not a really cool thing. If it weren't for the fact that Alea agreed to all of my terms, I wouldn't really have agreed to this. Even I was a little surprised that she said yes to every one of my demands, but I assume she sees that this is the best way to defend humanity and ensure its continuity. Perhaps she thought that she should return me to the system because I was not part of the collective subconscious of humanity, and although she still cannot get into my mind, she believes that being a counter guardian, even without any duties, means that I am not a threat. She was not really wrong. I was not a threat from the beginning. Although after all that happened to me I would not mind killing a few people, but I was not the type to do genocide or destroy the planet, and thanks to the circumstances of the mitigation of Alea, I have now a living heroic spirit is not present in the throne of heroes. Also, being a counter guardian is better than being an ordinary heroic spirit. First, being an ordinary heroic spirit has its benefits but can be influenced by your legend like my great-grandfather, Vlad III, or an unreal version of you, like King Arthur, be created. On the other hand, the counter guardian is not affected by the myths that an element is created, and they also are not called by the Holy Grail at random unless Alea agrees, just as even when one is called in a particular class it is not really limited in that class. On the third hand, if I refuse, most of all Alea will let me and may enter Gaia. Gaia is not a nice person because she hates humanity and may be angry because I killed Mephisto who wanted to destroy humanity, and also, I would rather be under the Alea command than Gaia. Just imagine what if Gaia lost her mind and sent all heroic spirits under her command to eliminate humanity? However, I have undergone many changes, the first of which is that I lost the title, a hero, and I acquired a new one, the Counter Guardian, who says that I am at the top of the Counter Guardians. My soul also changed to a full heroic spirit, but I did not have a servant essence on my soul or saint graph because I was not a servant called in the Chaldea summoning system. I also acquired a contract with Alea, a contract strong enough to give me a channel to communicate directly with her, and also give me an infinite amount of mana. This last part is a little tricky, since I can't just cover the world with magic energy. Let's say that my mana capacity is 100, and there is a talisman that requires 150 manas. I will be able to use 100 manas spells with unlimited inclusion, but I cannot use anything greater than that. So while my mana capacity is 232,800 units, it will be like my capacity will never be implemented, and it does not mean that the capacity expands to become infinite. The matter is similar to the relationship of the master and the servant. If the master has a greater amount than the servant can dream to spend, then it is as if the server receives infinite mana. Thanks to our contract, I can only ask Alea about anything I want to know. This is what she calls limited access to the collective subconscious of humanity. I asked her about whether she can summon media for me. She refused and told me that this is against the rules. Also, regardless of the regular game screen, I can access my stats as a heroic spirit, which means that I can see the rank of my stats such as strength, endurance, agility, mana, luck, and NP. It seems that Elida know about my skills and NP, but it does not seem she is angry that I have anti-planet noble phantasm, my condition as a heroic spirit used for display only, unlike the game case, and it seems that Alea does not recognize perks. Strength, agility, and endurance were at C+, C, and C, respectively, while mana and NP were at X, and luck was, which means that it is less than E, which explains a lot of the reason why everything happens to me. Also, it seems that Aleyo was not greedy after all and gave me noble phantasm of B rank, Doom armor. It was similar to my armor with small variations in the outward shape, and it does not contain the super reinforcement of media, but this does not matter because it can only be used in humans. On the other hand, this armor is a little better than my own armor, as the runes on it are stronger than those in the original armor, although they are the same type, and the strength and durability of mithril is much stronger, and it has previous reinforcements such as amplifying magic attacks. There are other additions as well, such as that this shield can use the principle of galvanism, which is simply converting magic energy into electrical energy or vice versa, and most importantly, with the addition of protection from ballistics, and more importantly, I can add modifications and make the shield recognize on these modifications as part of it, which means that these modifications will be considered with the armor noble phantasm. I was very tired, not physically, but mentally, so I took a week free from any training or study after returning home. This week I discovered something I had not noticed before, or that I was ignoring it. In the past years, I did not have a good relationship with my family, so I isolated myself from everyone in my studies, training, and travel around the world. I didn't care about anyone in my family, and the only reason I'm really around them is that they are my biological family. I still remember when my mom wanted to send me on trial. The only person I really care about was my twin sister, Valeria Rachel von Doom. When thinking about it carefully, I barely talked to her for years. I was always very busy, and now when I notice her, the cheerful girl who worried about me is gone a long time ago. My sister has become a very cold and arrogant girl. In the conference room in the clock tower, there was a large round table around chairs enough to hold tens of people. Of course, most of these seats were currently full, regardless of a few seats. There were several important people in the supernatural world from all sides of the world. Only a few people did not attend this meeting. The first is the director of Mage Association, the person of the highest position in the clock tower and one of the disciples of Solomon. The director has been the same person for the 2000 years since the founding of the association, and because of this is thought to be something more than human. The second is Kisker Zelrich Schweinorg, is one of 5 living magicians capable of true magic beyond modern science or magecraft. He has numerous nicknames, including Zelrich the Wizard Marshal. He has control over the second magic, Kaleidoscope, which allows for the operation of parallel worlds. The third person is Ayako Aozaki, the 5th magician who has control of the 5th magic and time travel operations. Not only that she did not come, it is only that she was not invited. Instead her older sister Tuko Aozaki was here. There was also Bartholomew Lorelei, the supreme mage of modern era and deputy director of the Mage Association. It was she who presided over this meeting and personally sent out invitations to all present. There were also the 12 lords of the clock tower, Tuko Aozaki, many interested persons from both the Temple of Atlas and the Roving Sea, and many Eastern and Western thaumaturgy schools, so that the church sent its own representative. This meeting was organized to discuss a global event that occurred several days ago, more specifically, 6 days ago. Hello, and thank you for accepting all of my invitation. Lorelei stood up and said in a cool expression, "My name is Bartholomew Lorelei, and I'm the one who invite you. You can call me Ms. Bartholomew. I'm the deputy director of the Mage Association, and I'm the one who invited you all." Everyone remained silent. Bartholomew was a very well-known person in the Magus community. Her introduction to herself was just a problematic, unimportant measure in order to give a starting point for the meeting. Now, I hope that we temporarily leave our past differences in order to discuss more important issues. Nearly 147 hours from now, all magical energy monitors in all our branches have discovered the emergence of a high level of magical energy in the North Atlantic, more specifically on an island. Bel Eli is an island in the Gulf of Gasconia. Bartholomew grabbed a rare magic tool used between top levels to display events previously recorded as realistic 3D projections, after turning them on and pushing them in the middle of the table. The tool started showing a recording of a creature with a black robe and antlers above his head fighting against a knight with a metal armor embossed in runes with a spear. As the device continued to display the recording, Bartholomew Lorelei began to speak again. "We believe that the source of magical energy is this creature, whom we discovered from their conversation that its name is Mephisto." Sorry. A member of the China Magus organization spoke. "Before we get to this superficial information, I think you should give us information about the identity of these two people too." A representative of Magus Middle East said, "While I want to know this too, I am more interested because there is such a creature in this world. For this, I think the Wandering Sea representative will lead the conversation now," Bartholomew said before sitting down. "Hi." A man with long red hair stood with a smile on his face, but it seemed to be wrong with him. "I am Kura Adashino. I am not a member of the Wandering Sea, but I was appointed to represent them among you, and also, at that time I was lucky to be in Quiberon. When I discovered magical energy, I sent my mate to explore, and I was able to discover a few things, in addition to the information I received from the Wandering Sea. I know you are Dr. Heartless," the Middle East representative said aggressively in his voice. "My reputation seems to precede me. I am surprised that someone in your center knows me," Kura said with a smile. "You killed my son," the Middle East representative said with a shout-like tone as he stood up. "Please lower your voice." Bartholomew suddenly interfered. The Middle East representative closed his eyes to calm himself and sat again. "In any case, it seems that this creature called Mephisto is what is called evil of men, and it is also a divine spirit in its initial form. As for the armored knight, it is apparently just a human being, and it is not known how he could fighting against this monster. And how can a divine spirit exist in this world? A representative of the Japanese Imperial Army asked. According to my information, it seems that he became a divine spirit not long ago, so he is in this world without any taxes. I see, said the representative of China. Do you not have any information on this knight? Or are you hiding information from us? Asterisk cough cough asterisk church representative, Kyrie Kodomine, coughed to gain attention. The church has already gathered some information about it, said Kyrie Kodomine while throwing a dossier toward Bartholomew Lorelei. According to our intelligence, we don't have any real information about his identity, as he disguises the face of Alex Sheen, who is an American civilian. However, the first piece of information about him is that he was the one who killed the dragon who destroyed Tijikjia, before he killed New York City Reaper. And hunting a phantasm beast in South America, was present in Greece, and it seems that whoever ended the spread of the curse. Regardless of this information, we do not know anything. So we don't even know his name. Atlas representative asked. No, Kyrie said with his strange smile, but because his armor is like a skeleton, we gave him a rank in red, with the code name, Skeletron. I tried to talk to my sister several times, but she always used to stop herself from me on the pretext that she is very busy, and the thing that annoys me is that she is always busy, and when she is not, she says only any excuse she finds in her mind. I was not the ideal family man. My family was cruel and cold and took care of its own interests, and I did not care about them because of this. Some people may think it is my fault and that I should not lose hope in my family, but they were adults who were brought up from their youngness to be tough and cold. Even I became like them at some point, but seeing my twin that I remember was a warm and kind turns to this makes me feel guilty because I wasn't there when she needed me. I also put all my statistical points in the spirit statistic. Firstly, because it is the only option that is not really wasted because it does not only increase the capacity of my prana, and secondly because when I turn into a divine spirit I will need a lot of mana in order to embody myself in the world if I do not have physical object at that time, and because Alea cannot receive divine spirits like the counter guardian. Also, I chose new perks, such as well-fed, which I discovered increases my regeneration without depleting my prana, unlike Avalon, which requires an amount of prana. It was a reason to deplete my mana against Mephisto, after boring something that did not treat a slightly damaged heart and but parts of an object were completely cut off repeatedly. Second, the 3 levels of who need oxygen. The first level gave me the ability to breathe under the surface of the water for a certain period, while the second level gave me the ability to breathe in space for a certain period, while the third level increased this period further. Also, the concealment that makes discovering the true amount of my magic energy is very difficult. While I had a ring that did this before, but I don't think it can hide my energy if I was close to a large magic energy monitor. With the current amount of prana of 424,800 units of magical energy, I have 20% of the energy that the Holy Grail collects in 60 years. In my fight against Mephisto, I could have made a big explosion similar to a nuclear explosion, but that would be useless. In modern and ancient thaumaturgy theory, while most spells like Gandra and Rain of Light amplify their destructive power with the increase in prana, the infusion of a large number in one talisman causes instability and dispersion, so I did not try to send a gunner shot filled with all my energy toward Mephisto, because she wouldn't reach him anyway. While racist spells such as the Sea of Flame and the Lightning Spear will not be activated if you try to put more quantity than they require. So noble phantasms like Rongomyniad and Excalibur are very precious and powerful, because pumping a greater amount of prana into them actually means a much greater dispensational force, and this is one of the many reasons why I could defeat Mephisto, because I can put a large amount of prana to double its strength. Of course, if I try to put all my magic power into it, Rongomyniad will reject it because it will not do any further increase on it, until divine constructions have limits. As my attempts to get close to Valeria failed, I began to find things to occupy myself with. In the following days, I began to test the boundaries of my fourth wall. Since he could prevent Alea from reading my mind, it seemed that the complete immunity in the description was not to attract buyers, and I discovered somewhat interesting things. Like the fact that while I possess immunity from innate abilities such as mind reading and telepathy and mental attacks including magecraft of the type of mental interference, the capabilities of mystic eyes can cross the fourth wall, and also things like the master and servant contract that was between me and between media, or Alea contract, is not counted as a mental attack because it is a physical charm that works by removing a message from my mind and sending it through the mental channel. However, I also started conducting studies and tests on the bodies of dragons that I own. Of course I was doing this secretly. By spending a long time and spending some resources, I was able to create a separate space in the place of my own workshop. The space was like my workshop, but when someone tries to enter my workshop, he will not enter the space that I did, but to the workshop that I did not use. I spent many hours studying the dragons, and I could not know the side effects and eradicate them until after about 3 weeks. After all, these dragons are demonic dragons that are skillfully enhanced by mad enhancement. I discovered that the best commodity I possess is the original Wrath Corpse, while the other dragons are just imitations that can only act as a substitute. So I used resources from Wrath Corpse to make doses to gradually strengthen my body, while ate his magical heart similarly to the Sigurd legend. So day after day, aside from strengthening my body, my magic circuits were changed to dragon core circuits similar to Arturia Pendragon, while my own heart was transformed into a monocore reactor because of my eating of Wrath's heart, and I also acquired the dragon breath that gives me the ability to purple shooting fire has the effect of continuous burning and corrosion, all under my new skill, Dragonkind modification. I also started building a mental library that contained all the books I have read in my life including spells, medicine, technology, modern magecraft, and magecraft of Age of Gods by taking advantage of the skill that I acquired by killing gluttony, hypothetical inference. Currently, I was inside the library and sat in the seat opposite the seat my twin sister, Valeria Rachel von Doom, was sitting in, reading a book about formal craft. Hello, Valeria. I told her with a smile. Victor said she while she didn't raise her head to look at me. I just want to say, what do you think about spending some time together like a brother and sister? She looked at me while smiling sarcastically. We? Brother and sister? Only the fact that we were born from the same father and mother does not make us a brother and sister, Victor, and hearing these words coming from you is very funny. I'm sorry for that, Valeria, because I was a bad brother, just give me a chance to fix it. You were not a bad brother, Victor, you were not a brother at all. I remember we were close in our childhood but we haven't talked for years. Bad brother has spoken to his sister at least several times a day, when you left me and left the family, so all my mom and uncle's expectations fell on me, she said while she closed the book. Now if you excuse me, I'm busy. She stood to leave. Seeing this, I immediately grabbed her hand. Please, I promise I will not spoil it if you give me another chance. Don't you realize the meaning of my words? I don't need you anymore, she said coldly and tried to pull her hand, but I continued to hold her tightly. Leave me, Victor, or else I will cast a spell on your face. You can do this as long as you give me a chance to fix things with you, I told her while I tightened my grip. She looked at me for a long time before she sighed. Okay, but I don't want you to talk to me again if you can't correct it. It has been 2 full years since I defeated Mephisto and I have never been reunited with my sister. During this period, no significant events have occurred or particularly worthy of mention. Apart from that, I used my knowledge in the category of zoology and physical modification to enhance my Giganotosaurus in magic ways. Basically, I modified and greatly enhanced it with the bodies of the dragon I own, as I initially used to continuously and moderately inject the blood of the dragons over the long months before I made him eat dragon meat as lunch. This process was slow and lasted for a whole year, but I think it was worth the time spent. The next addition was that I replaced his heart with the heart of one of the dragons before I made him eat the rest. And the final addition is that I engraved several runes to increase speed, durability, and strength in his body, but I did not suffice to this extent and took advantage of my item construction X to transform my Giganotosaurus soul into a guardian soul, by merging a human soul with his soul after making sure that I wiped all memories of the human soul. Of course I added some changes, such as giving him a saint graph, a spiritual essence that stores all his information and experiences and gives him the ability to act as a servant. Because of this his physical body was transformed into a body made of ether and did not need object to sleep like Kalchi's dragon. The end result was very satisfactory. Previously Giganotosaurus was just an ordinary dinosaur, but now with all the modifications I made on it, it can be considered a guardian spirit and servant at the same time, with the possibility of evolving in the future into a holy spirit, which means that I will have a beneficial ally and strong in the future, and since it can be considered as a servant I can see his stats and skills, and I have to work as an anchor for him in this world. There are also some bad effects such as that Giganotosaurus no longer counted part of the game, and since he became the spirit of the guardian he is a completely new person without any memories with the acquisition of wisdom and the level of human intelligence, and without the game I doubted that it would not be loyal to me. It seems that a female dinosaur, not a male, but it seems unnecessary to be complained about. As for the first problem, both servants and the guardian spirits could switch between the spiritual and ether body, so there was no problem with this. However, I had to choose a name for it, which I named Siki. True name, Siki. Type, Guardian Spirit. Class, non-classed. Parameter, Strength, B+. Endurance, B+++. Agility, B. Mana, E++. Luck, D. NP. Class Skills. Independent Action, C. Mad Enhancement, E. Personal Skills. Animalistic Logic, B. Battle Continuation, B. Magic Resistance, A. NP. Its class was unclassified, and it is understandable because I did not use any classes like the Holy Grail, and because guardian spirits were not heroic or divine spirits, which means that they were not normally qualified for any class unless the classes was used on purpose. Of course any guardian spirit could not be converted to a servant. I could only do that by creating a saint graph, which I could have done because the item construction is at X level. While the reason she didn't own ANP was because I didn't create any artificial noble phantasm, and I didn't give her anything like Gibati, and unlike Mephisto, I didn't use something people believed like sins from Christianity to create something like Phantom. But, since I imitated the Chaldea summons system, this of course means that I also imitated the Ascension system, which means that I can strengthen Siki 4 times, which increases its strength. So even if it does not develop into a holy spirit it will still become stronger than it is now. Also, after all the modifications to it, regardless of its acquisition of intelligence, its size has not changed at all, and what has changed is that the color of its skin has become black. Regardless of this, I spent some time with my sister. It was strange at first because none of us knew where to start, but I started telling her stories about my travel around the world. I did not tell her anything about Mephisto or sins. I told her about the Holy Grail War, and about how I have been hunting phantasm species for a period of my life, then on my experiences and my experience in the clock tower. Of course I did not tell her anything about the magecraft of the Age of the Gods, or that I memorized almost all the books in the clock tower, or anything about my dinosaur or noble phantasms, but I told her the truth. And she, in turn, told me how she had killed the first person in the 13th year of her life, and how she had to survive in the woods alone for 2 whole months, and that she had to go to a war zone at the age of 14 and collect the bodies of soldiers. She told me that she would go to the clock tower this year. She was more interested in witchcraft and Firmalktaft than her interest in necromancy. While all other family members are pure necromancers, I decided to help my sister in her school course, and while she would be a student in the clock tower, I decided I would work as an enforcer, because I was not the person who loves to lazy and stay idle, because I will be able to meet my sister more, and also work as an enforcer may gain me some experience, and perhaps even a suitable cover. Also, working as an enforcer would be a good way to learn about other mage organizations, and to keep an eye on timeline. In the last year of my work as enforcer I was assigned to many tasks such as hunting magus who stole his family's secrets before escaping, or killing someone who wanted to inform the public about the existence of the magus world, including murder investigation tasks such as if a family head was killed. I've even been on a team mission with Bazit Fragamakramitz and many other mages under the leadership of Bartholomew Lirelay to annihilate a village that has been completely converted to ghouls, the lowest ranking of vampires, by someone who defected from the association for nearly 10 years, who seems to have spent those 10 years as a ghoul before he became dead apostle and therefore has not yet appeared. However, I could finally see Bartholomew Lorelei, the legendary queen of the Clock Tower and the Magus Association, and I was able to rate her overall capabilities. In magecraft she is equal to me, which means that her magecraft is as strong as true magic, while I am still excelling because of the huge prana and high-speed divine words, magecraft of Age of Gods, my many combat skills, perks, and noble phantasms, and my superhuman physical capabilities, while her body appears to have E rank, which is the peak of an ordinary human. Of course she can still use reinforcement magecraft. I am sure that with her abilities and level of fame, she is qualified to become a heroic spirit, perhaps from the type of anti-hero like me, since we are not the pure heroes, we have done bad things, or we are simply looking for revenge, or we simply do not care if another person die in front of UD as long as we weren't the cause. While my sister went to formal craft class at the age of 18, this was the normal age to enroll in a real class to study, because most people study 5 years in general studies. My sister studied this and mastered the family's magecraft at home, so she saved some time in her life by not losing it in general studies. Between every mission and mission, I used to spend a lot of my time with her and her new friends. While it seems that Waver Velvet bought the modern magecraft theory section of the Archibald family, while he did not become Lord Elmeloy II, but he is still a famous second-class professor. While Gray appears to have become his student on this timeline as well, and she still wears a hood to hide her face because Waver suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. I had tried to have a conversation with him in the past, but it seemed that he was uncomfortable. He seemed to be suffering from nausea when exposed to anything that could be mentioned in relation to a servant or the Holy Grail. Waver was a cool person, but I could not help but think that he was pathetic. This was the difference between us. While we both lost someone we considered dear to us, but I am trying to restore it, while he is terrified even of the idea of the Holy Grail. Also, this year Siki underwent 2 stages of ascension. With each stage her parameters were slightly enhanced and her body became more dynamic and suitable for combat while some of its skills were strengthened. In the anime, there was no ascension system because, unlike the game, the servants do not gain EXP from killing creatures and the servants do not drop items upon their death, so my ascension system is completely different, and it works by accumulating experience and increasing servant loyalty to the master, and absorbing data from evil spirits. It helps. This is the so-called level, while the ascension process is done only with the approval of the master. All this is possible because, unlike the normal spiritual essence of servants and heroic spirits, the Saint Graph is like the spiritual foundation, information store, experiments, and CPU. For this reason in the game even when the servant dies it does not disappear. By combining this with the master and servant contract system, including the combat and trial system, I can create a level system. Of course, the progress of heroic spirits at levels is very slow because they are really experienced and skillful fighters, but they can still pass through ascension, although unskilled or Lilith servants do not face much difficulty in this. I also invented several new offensive spells that use pure prana or lightning, and invented theory and methods to reduce the risks of lightning magecraft in order to gain influence in the Magus Society and Association, and while I am still enforcer, I also gained the nickname Philosopher by the Association and I became a very well-known person and was called a genius because my many contributions are more than the majority of Magus can make at their lifetime, and I have also gained some influence in the Association. One of my own spells that I did not hand over to the association is called the Illusion Barrier. I did not have a reality marble, and made an independent world takes a long time, so I came to the concept of the Illusion Barrier, and it is a temporary independent world that can be called a fake reality marble. Making it doesn't requires a large amount of mana, and anyone can make it immediately as long as he knows the formula of the spell and as long as he has enough experience in making independent worlds, which means that only me or Medea or people like Mephisto and Goetia can do this. Just as the Illusion Barrier, it does not require any mana after its creation and will continue as long as its maker is inside it. Because the maker works like a ship for this artificial dimension, the space inside is similar to the region in the real world without any ordinary humans, just as the corrective motives of the world cannot influence him or the creatures within him because he it is not considered within the authority of Gaia, which means that creatures such as servants will not need to place huge taxes on the master because Gaia cannot attempt to remove the servant within the barrier. Also, I secured the Greater Holy Grail in the cave under the Ryudu Temple on Mount Inzo. I initially wanted only to make small adjustments. I did not plan to do anything, but it seemed Alea, my boss, wanted me to prove my strength by destroying a potential beast, and the game seems to recognize its demand as a mission. New main mission, Potential Evil. Description: in the Third Holy Grail War of the 1930s, Angra Mainyu, the source of all evil in the world, was summoned, but was defeated early, but his soul used the Grail as a womb in order to transform it into the source of all evil in the world. Due to the request of your current boss, Aleyashiki, you have to destroy Angra Mainyu. You can do that by destroying the Greater Grail, but you still have benefit from it. Subject: summon Angra Mainyu, the source of all evil, an evil of men, and kill him. Reward: 15.000.000 EXP. Despite my willingness to confront Angra Mainyu all the evils of the world, I still have to do a few things before that, such as brainwashing the residents of the Ryuda Temple and getting them to leave. This was not really challenging, as I could have used mental overlap and hypnosis to control the entire population, similar to what I and Medea had done in the previous Holy Grail War, and they made them all leave the mountain towards Fuyaki. I also got to know Suichiro Kuzuki, but I wasn't really interested in him. The only reason he was able to defeat Arturia Pendragon in the Fifth Holy Grail War was because of Medea's extraordinary boost and because Saber was not using Excalibur. Of course his fighting style played an important role, but that's it. He didn't have any kind of martial arts, magecraft, or mystic codes that I might be interested in. After doing all this, I began the ritual summoning of all evil in the world, Angra Mainyu, although I call these rituals summonin, but the correct meaning is forced release, because what I will do is very similar to how a doctor aborts a child from the belly of a woman. Although Angra Mainyu is a heroic spirit registered to the throne of heroes, after being summoned in the Third Holy Grail War and his death, the Holy Grail recognized the villagers' wishes as wish and began turning Angra Mainyu into the embodiment of all evil in the world. But to do with this, the Angra Mainyu became the baby of the Holy Grail, and it can no longer be called normally. Even Angra Mainyu himself cannot go out before another person's wish is granted, so that the essence of the Holy Grail Justice Lizric von Einsborn cannot drive him out. That is why I am excluding him exclusively. With the help of my knowledge in spiritual summoning and both the Book of Vesta and the Dark Grail, I did successfully summon Angra Mainyu. In front of the Greater Grail, Angra Mainyu began to form. Its size resembled the Greater Grail, while it appeared to be a red arachnoid with multiple eyes and an inverted shape trapped inside a transparent red cocoon. Angra Mainyu unleashed a noisy moan as if he woke up from a deep slumber just now and stretched his hands to the side, tearing the cocoon that was holding him, while at the same time changing his shape to a much smaller version, to my own shape, with the difference being that Angra Mainyu possesses black skin and white hair. Seeing this, it was strange to see someone else who has your shape, but I was not surprised or shocked, because even as a heroic spirit he did not possess a form of his own, and as an entity that represents the evil of the world, I do not expect that he will get a shape. I used each of the opponent's strength and medium awareness of the enemies in order to measure his strength. True name, Angra Mainyu. Type, Evil of Men. Source, Zoroastrianism. Region, Ancient Persia. Alignment, Chaotic Evil. Hidden attribute, Beast. Parameter, Strength, C++. Endurance, A. Agility, A+++. Mana, X. Luck, E+. NP, X. Class skills. Authority of Beasts, C. Independent Manifestation, C. Avenger, A. Memory correction, A. Personal skills. Eternal regeneration, A+++. Torage, Left Fang Grinder, A. Zurich, Right Fang Grinder, A. Annihilation Wish, A. The Eye of the Mind, False, C. Divinity, E. NP. Angra Mainyu, All the World's Evil, X. Vergavesta, D. I looked at his stats and found that just as I expected, while his power was greatly enhanced after he became Evil of Men, but he is still weaker than other beasts because he was the weakest heroic spirit before that. Now, perhaps he can be compared to a first-class server. Victor Von Doom. Angra Mainyu looked at me with 20 meters between us. So you decided to make me your next target. I am not gay, Angry Matthew, I told him with a sarcastic smile, and I'm here to kill you. Angry Matthew, I love this name, he said while Torich and Zurich appeared in his hands. I took out Gibadhi and started fighting. While I was fighting defensively by avoiding and intercepting his attacks, he was targeting my vital areas with deadly attacks. He jumped several meters and threw Torich and Zarek as projectiles in my direction, while their speed was faster than the speed of tossing Gilgamesh's weapons from the Babylon Gate, but I could calculate their path while my body instinctively responded and avoided them by jumping in the air and bend my body in a way that my body passes between Zarek and Torich. When the blades passed by me several meters away, they changed their course and again turned toward me, but their number doubled to 4 separate blades. Argos? I created a magic wall to stop the Angra Mainyu blades. No matter how fast or how tough they are, I don't think they can penetrate Argos, a protective spell that has the toughness of Heracle's skin. While Torix and Zarex couldn't penetrate Argos, Angra Mainyu approached me from the side with his super speed and tried to punch me, but before he could touch me, I used Trafa to teleport behind him, grabbed him from his shoulders and threw him in the opposite direction of the Greater Grail, the entrance to the cave. I don't want Justice Lizric von Einsburn to be hurt by our fight. It will be mean, and I don't want her to refuse to fulfill my wish after I win the Holy Grail War. When Angra Mainyu was thrown out of the cup, I used Trafa to teleport behind his flying body and kicked it enough to throw it several tens of meters above the ground. I used Trafa again to teleport above it in the sky and punched it with both fists, causing it to be thrown towards the earth with high momentum and speed. Because Alea gives me infinite magical energy, which is only possible through the third magic, I could currently use the true magic related to teleportation freely without worrying about depleting prana. And while teleportation for short distances does not cause any problem, teleportation FOT medium distances can cause nausea and headache, and in media notes it was said that it is unhealthy to open the eyes when teleportation for long distances. I waited until he stood up, and while he had multiple injuries and scratches, they were quickly healed. Perhaps this is one of his abilities as all worlds evil. It seems you are not as strong as you should be, angry Matthew, I said to him. Oh Victor, you didn't see me in my weakest state, he said, with a sarcastic smile, because his shape looked like me, even his smile resembled me. Hey, really? Can you be weaker? I told him I was surprised in a fake way. Yes, of course, this is one of the things that I was proud of before. I am the weakest heroic spirit in existence, he said while he proudly punched his chest. I was about to say something again, but Xerix and Torix, who now numbered 8, while 2 of them stopped in the hand of Angra Mainyu, but the remaining 6 turned towards me. I used Argos to stop them, and after they couldn't break through the barrier, they faded away in particles of red light. I immediately removed Gibidhi from my inventory again and engaged in a close fight with him. After a while, I found a hole in his style and tried to hit his neck with Gibidhi, but he used Torich and Zarek to push my spear up. But I inserted my spear into my inventory. I grabbed Zarek and Torich and pulled them out of his hands. My hands moved quickly and I cut his chest in an X shape. Virga Vesta. Angra Mainyu said after going back. I felt the pain as if my chest was also cut off, but magic resistance A denied this effect in a few seconds. Really angry Matthew? It's stupid to try to use a simple curse to share damage against me, I said to him in a neutral way. Fortunately my magical resistance is in grade A because of my dragon core. You're right, he said while nodding. I didn't want to use this, but it seems you have to face my special attack. You own a special attack, I told him while I held my head to the side. That's right, here it is. My special attack called Escape, he said as he turned to the opposite side of me and started running at full speed. My eyes expanded in shock. I did not expect him to escape, especially since he is a beast now, but I think it does not matter if he is a beast or a heroic spirit. It seems that the weakest heroic spirit, or now, the weakest evil of men, has decided to escape. Alea, it seems that our beast has decided to run away with his tail between his legs. I chased after him and did not wait for Alea's answer. I was trying to get close to him, but he was moving away gradually because his speed was higher than the speed. When seeing that he would run away, which I don't want because I want to please my boss, I immediately threw Rain of Light, Makia Hekashia Greya continuously for 10 seconds on least before stopping. When the smoke due to my attack cleared, Angra Mainyu was injured and mowed like a cockroach. It was not comforting that he looked exactly like me. Before I could say anything, Angra Mainyu said, Angra Mainyu, all the world's evil. His whole body turned into black clay and began to multiply and grow at an enormous speed. Seeing this, I retreated in order not to touch me this clay, but I stopped because of a piece of orders that Alea sent me. I should not let this clay continue to expand under any case. I directed my hand to the sky and used my magic energy, which expanded rapidly and surrounded the area in a circle with a diameter of 300 meters. My magic energy analyzed everything that passed through it, and I used this information to build a fake reality marble separate from the ordinary world, while by inserting the black clay into it with me too, I've created an illusion barrier. And while I prevented the black clay from reaching the outside world, I also prevented myself from the possibility of escaping from it as well, and it seemed that the black clay acquired intelligence of some kind and approached me with great speed and surrounded me. It seems as if the space around it has been distorted for the sake to give it that speed, then sucked inside the mud. I lost consciousness for a while, but when I woke up again I was on the street. I was 9 years ago when Medea died. I tried to use my magic energy and summon my noble phantasms, but I couldn't. I couldn't interact with anything or a person. These abilities are not stolen from me. I was currently in a dream world. It was not difficult to know this because the inverted moon of the heavens is in the sky. Without being able to do anything, I just watched. And over, I watched as Gilgamesh kills Medea. Over and over, she get killed in a different way, and with each time it becomes more brutal and bloody the ways she dies. While I know that this is just an illusion, it was affecting me, especially when these methods began to become more brutal, and I could only wonder if this was the way she died. Isn't this terrible, Victor? I heard a female voice behind me. I just turned around to find it a Medea. No, it's Angra Mainyu taking the form of Medea. Angry Matthew, you don't think you can influence me like this, do you? No, he said to me as he approached me. Victor, I am here to give you one last chance. As long as you give up trying to kill me, I will be happy to fulfill your wish, she said to me while she touched my face. Take it softly with her hand. I put my hand on her hand and closed my eyes while feeling her hand feeling. This was familiar, my wish. I am good in reading feelings, Victor, and I have been watching you for a long time. I can summon Medea for you, real, not fake like me. I ignored his words for a moment. It is a great offer, but I have a job to do, a war to win, someone to bring back to life, a sister to return to, and someone to take revenge on, and also, a boss I don't want to upset. On the other hand, in order to fulfill my wish I must let him go back into the Grail, and while I want Medea to return as soon as possible, Angra Mainyu fulfills aspirations in tortuous ways, and also, I am not stupid, because that will cause the end of the world, the end of humanity. I want you to know something. What? She said. While you were making me watch Medea die time and time again, I was able to communicate with a small part of my prana. His eyes expanded for a moment, but before he could do anything, I communicated with my prana through a high-speed divine world in order to launch a flame spell with the purpose of burning the black mud that surrounds my real body. After doing this I woke up and it seemed that the black clay had spat me out. I used Medea's spell to fly and I saw that the mud had covered half of the illusion barrier. If it continued to expand, it could cross the illusion barrier due to the attribute of space. I activate my mystic eyes of death perception in order to discover the lines of the death of the black mud, and then I directed Envy, a blade that cuts the world. I cut several death lines in one attack. It was impossible to resist the force of the Envy, not because of its speed or strength, but because it ignored all capabilities and defenses because of its cutting force that cuts the world itself. I used Envy to cut all the death lines connected to the black mud that I could see, and after doing so I gathered the remains of the black mud and formed Angra Mainyu, which is still using my shape. I cancelled Envy, took out Rongomaniad and stood 70 meters from Angra Mainyu, who was looking at me with a mixture of anger and fear. Why? I was ready to give you a wish. Why did you refuse? The truth? Because you took the form of Medea, and because I'm not stupid, but there is one last reason. Do you want to know? I interrupted him quickly. What? He said with questions, while still angry. Alea sends her regards. I told him I coolly and, before he answered, I made my move Rongomaniad. Rongomaniad. I said while I directed the spear point towards Angra Mainyu. I did not throw it towards him or jump in the sky, I simply directed Rongomaniad point towards it. Rongomaniad immediately released my magical energy into an offensive force and unleashed it, by converting my magical energy into light by the dragon factor similar to Excalibur, and at one moment a light holding energy equivalent to my 424,800 OD was released by the spear. In less than half a portion of the second light wave passed through the body of Angra Mainyu and destroyed it completely and did not stop at that point as the light wave reached the boundaries of the illusion wall and the destructive yaw exploded in a golden light and did not stop because it continued to try to cross the illusion barrier. The boundaries of the illusion barrier began to break and in less than a second the illusion barrier was destroyed and the Rongomaniad attack disappeared with my return to the real world where the region was not suffering any damage. I looked at the spear in my hand. This divine structure is getting stronger every time I use it. The last time against Mephisto had the power of an ordinary anti-fortress rank, but now he is strong enough to destroy a fake dimension less than a second of activating it without boosting it with a Knight of Honor. And while I am not opposed to this, I do not want to destroy my illusion barrier every time I use Rongomaniad. I am also happy, because I can kill opponents before they can only escape to come back stronger. Although I was disappointed as well, when Alea ordered me to kill Angra Mainyu I was expecting that he would be much stronger, but it seems she was only worried because with the strong security that the cup gives her, Angra Mainyu can annihilate humanity. I inserted Rongomaniad into my inventory and used my C-rank clairvoyant to inspect my periphery in order to make sure that no black clay remains, that the entire black clay appears to be either destroyed by envy or by Angra Mainyu's death. I sighed deeply and started heading towards the cave in which the Greater Grail is stored, while I killed Angra Mainyu, but I still have to study the cup and fix it and make a procedure after modifications thereof. Corruption was the fault of the Holy Grail itself and not Angra Mainyu, so from it is possible that the wish-granting functionality is still corrupted. Hey, Alea, can I ask you something? While I was walking toward the cave in moderate steps, I asked Alea. After several seconds of waiting she did not answer me, so I asked anyway. Since Angra Mainyu was a heroic spirit, will his memories return to the original version within the throne of the heroes? That's right, she said briefly, before falling silently. But he's not a heroic spirit anymore. It's like a flawed imitation of demons. Wouldn't that cause a problem inside the throne of heroes? Although the beast known as all the world's evil is no longer a heroic spirit, but since its essence is merely a copy of a heroic spirit, what bored to the throne of heroes is the memories that he tried without any abilities or skills, although in some cases the copy may affect the true heroic spirit, but these cases are very rare. Alaya spoke briefly and quickly. A while ago I discovered that my contract does not exist with all Alaya in the timelines, but only with Alaya of this world, although my contract will be expanded after I enter the throne of the heroes. That is why I have to be careful, because while Alaya will be able to summon me if I am on another planet or in another dimension like the reverse side of the world, my contract will become temporarily cancelled if I go to an alternate timeline or to another universe. Thank you Alaya, you are very helpful like always. I told her while I entered the cave entrance. No, I was not licking her ass, it was the reason I knew that the timeline is not divided by every option that any living creature makes, while there are hundreds of thousands of timelines, except that it was made due to interference by someone, or because of some kind of event. The remaining or useless timelines are removed automatically due to the will of the universe, so only prosperous timelines are the ones that remain, and while beings like Alaya know that there are different timelines, they cannot interfere with them. I entered the cave and smiled when I saw that the great holy grail that had previously had a bloody red light was now shining weakly in a white and golden holy light. While it was comfortable to see this, but I must secure my new treasure first. I was not planning to move the holy grail from its place. It was here 200 years ago and no one has tried to steal it before and no one will try now. Instead I decided to keep it here as this cave was built by Justice Lizric von Einsborn in particular from the Holy Grail Order. I was planning to make several adjustments, but now I have built 3 layers of magical barriers around the cave, setting up a defensive mechanism in the event that an unauthorized person tries to borrow, and I pressed the undead dragon in hibernation to guard the grail. The undead dragon was the undead monster that I made by dragon's bones. While I used wrath bones as a skeleton, I made other dragon's bones function like flesh and skin while I used a high-quality gem as the core. He had no soul, which means that he does not have free will, he only knows the response to my orders. It is like a golem. After about an hour and a half when I finished all of this, the last addition I made was to put a talisman at the entrance to the cave in order to make it look like any dead end of the mountain. After doing this I sat next to the Greater Grail and I opened the game screen to know what I gained. Who killed Angra Mainyu? You have completed main mission, potential evil. Description: in the Third Holy Grail War of the 1930s, Angra Mainyu, the source of all evil in the world, was summoned, but was defeated early, but his soul used the grail as a womb in order to transform it into the source of all evil in the world. Due to the request of your current boss, Alayashiki, you have to destroy Angra Mainyu. You can do that by destroying the Greater Grail, but you still have benefit from it. Subject: summon Angra Mainyu, the source of all evil, an evil of men, and kill him. Rating: perfect. Basic reward: 15 million EXP. Bonus reward: the essence of building a soul. The essence of building the soul, a spiritual essence in a bottle. While it does not have any special effects, but it can be used to repair the soul of the user if it has been damaged. You have reached level 129. You killed evil of men, Angra Mainyu, you gained 10 million EXP. You have reached level 132. You can choose one perk. Total statistical points, 14. You killed evil of men, Angra Mainyu, you can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills: Authority of Beasts, C. Independent Manifestation, C. Avenger, A. Memory Correction, A. Eternal Regeneration, A. Torage, Left Fang Grinder, A. Zurich, Right Fang Grinder, A. Annihilation Wish, A. The Eye of the Mind, False, C. Divinity, E. NP. Angra Mainyu, All the World's Evil, X. Vergavesta, D. Compared to Mephisto, Angra Mainyu was really lacking in skills. This is not really shocking because defeating Angra Mainyu was relatively easy. While Mephisto almost killed me, I used observation on all Angra Mainyu skills. Authority of Beasts, C. Due to the incomplete transformation of Angra Mainyu into all the world's evil, this skill decreases to the C level, obtaining a damage impulse against humans, useless against heroic and divine spirits. Independent Manifestation, C. Renders resistance against the instantaneous imposition of death and attacks affected by time manipulation. Avenger, A. Turning user-oriented hatred into a mana. Memory Correction, A. The damage value of his critical attacks are higher than other servants, as he attacks when other servants forget. Eternal Regeneration, The existence of Angra Mainyu as the root of all evil, his soul having been turned into an eternal generator, is an example of what the third magic is capable of accomplishing, though that was a result of the wish-granting aspect of the Grail rather than third magic. Torage, the Left Fang Grinder, With this weapon, Angra Mainyu can destroy the weapon of his opponent that was tangled by his other sword. Due to the influence of the Holy Grail he gained the feature of traceability and repetition. Zurich, the Right Fang Grinder, With this weapon, Angra Mainyu can receive an opponent's attack and tangle it. Due to the influence of the Holy Grail acquired the effect of tracing and repetition. Annihilation Wish, ignoring the limits of his body during battle, he starts running and increases his speed infinitely. Of course, what awaits at the end is self-destruction, but in the last few seconds before burning out, Angra can only be challenged by a first-rate servant. Eye of the Mind, False, C. Since Angra Mainyu is the weakest person of its kind, he has a slight sixth sense of danger proving his presence in battle. Divinity, because Angra Mainyu is not divine or possesses any divine lineage, he should not possess divinity, but he acquired it because the villagers wished him to be the god of all evil in the world. Angra Mainyu, all the world's evil, X is a curse that had put all of the evils in the world on one person, that who became Angra Mainyu. It is not a very useful ability, as it only grants the servant's soul an alignment directed towards killing people even after when it takes on the form of directionless and alignmentless magical energy after losing the shell of its class. Normally it would not affect anything, but with the way the Great Grail is set up to take the servant's souls means placing all the world's evil into a wish-granting machine. Virgavesta, D is a wound-sharing primal curse, which is one of the simplest curses of retribution. It is a third-rate noble phantasm that even Avenger finds to be worthless. It causes any damage taken by the user to also be dealt to the attacker by reflecting it directly on their soul. The ability causes no wounds to appear, but simply mirrors the pain associated with the wound onto the opponent. The damage will not heal until Avenger's wounds are healed or he succumbs to them. I looked at the list of skills and noble phantasms. It didn't make sense to get Authority of Beasts while I work under Aleia, while independent manifestation in this rank is useless to me, and eternal regeneration is also not useful because I have infinite prana thanks to Aleia and because I will get Heaven's Feel in the future if everything goes well. Which means that I have to cut between Avenger, Memory Correction, Zurich, and Torich. While the Torich and Zurich properties are really useful, they are just cursed weapons and even with the Knight of Honor they will be only noble phantasms of C rank. And while there is Eye of the Mind, false, its level is very low, and I already own the other version of it along with Instinct, and also, I prefer to get a higher rank than it. So in the end, I chose both Avenger, Memory Correction, and Virgavesta. When I finished choosing, I headed towards the entrance of the cave. At that moment I felt pain in the back of my left hand. When I looked at my hand I saw 3 command seals. After I received the seals of the Order seals from the Holy Grail, I did not rush to summon Medea. I wanted it but I waited 9 years already. A few weeks would make no difference. I started studying and analyzing the Holy Grail itself, and studying its rules and limits. The Holy Grail was similar to an operating system that runs a specific game, the Holy Grail War, and like any game it has its own rules and rewards. There were many rules and safety walls but thanks to item construction X rank it was not difficult to get past these walls and manipulate the rules. Regardless of the operation of the safety wall in order to transform the regular Holy Grail War, where 7 masters and 7 servants fight to death into the Great Holy Grail War where there are 2 teams with 7 servants in each division, while it requires the death of 14 servants in order to achieve a Heaven's Feel except I can come up with several solutions. I also added several rules, such as that I added the Saint Graph function. In this way even if a servant dies in this war and he is summoned in the next war, he will be able to remember this war as the Holy Grail itself will save its data and memories. I have also increased the knowledge that the Holy Grail gives to the servants who are summoned. It will be unfortunate for my team to turn against each other before we even start fighting the other team, so I made the servants explain what is the difference between this war and previous wars. I also secured my own team. I identified Hercules and Iliasville von Einsborn as members of my team, the Black Team, because Heracles was summoned before I changed the rules I could have withdrawn into my team. Hercules could be a strong ally while Iliasville is the daughter of Kiritsugo. I don't really care about this, but I am interested in how she has so many magic circuits without ever being subjected to immediate death. I may be able to increase the number of my circuits, and perhaps even extend her life a little in return. The second master that I have chosen is Bezit Fragamakramits. She has been my companion in arms before and she is also very strong for a human. Do not forget that she owns a sorcery trait from the era of gods, God's holders in addition to Fragarach, nor do I think that Cu Kilane would be useless like Lancer in the 4th Holy Grail War. The third master in my team will be Shinji Mato. Between him and Sakura who did not know anything about magecraft, I choose him as an assassin master. His servant's identity will be random if he does not use a catalyst but I think this is better, just as he is not the coward teenager we all know and hate. As for Rider's Master, I didn't choose anyone because I didn't have anyone in my mind, so the Holy Grail might pick any random person, although I believe that Justice will pick a beneficial person for me after I saved her from Angra Mainyu. As for the other team, the Red Team, I did not interfere in it because I could not. The manipulation of the balance of power may lead to the automatic failure of the ritual, and while it was giving me a lateral organization, the manipulation of the other side would harm the balance, and balance is necessary for the sake of something, meditation, channeling my inner Thanos. As for the servant that I will call 3 servers. The first one will be my caster, Princess of Kalchis Medea. It's not only that I've been waiting only 10 years for this but I love her too. I can remember her soft hand touch, softness of her voice, her soft purple hair and her pretty face, her kindness to me, and while she may not remember me normally, I can only use one small wish for this, although I am not sure that she will treat me kindly because I have grown up to be a handsome person. I remember she hates handsome men. The second servant would be Arturia Pendragon, Saber, not the heroic spirit from the Throne of Heroes but the heroic spirit within Avalon. Not only is she a very powerful servant if she is not holding back, but she also has Excalibur, the most powerful holy sword, and I will be able to study the invisible air. While I can make artificial noble phantasm similar to it if I really try, but studying the original will make it easier. The third servant would be Archer. I was thinking of manipulating the rules and summoning Gilgamesh in a female body. This would be a great way to humiliate him but I think it is stupid to have a servant who tends to betray me. I wanted a servant who was loyal to me. The servant that I thought of was Urash, the same servant who made the Oxus River in his lifetime. While his NP is a suicide attack but I think he can teach me bow and arrow creation. Because I killed Angra Mainyu, Kyrie Kodomine died because Angramenio could no longer keep him alive anymore, yet Gilgamesh did not die because he was relying on Kyrie as just a ship. He must have signed a contract with another person. Because of this it seems that he does not die. I can still relish my revenge. I also manipulated the Grail in order to create special recall rights in order to summon the servant in his strongest shape. This means that the servant on which I use this recall right will have the parameters at the highest level he can get, with all the skills he can get. While NP is still restricted according to the class, I did not intend to use these rituals on Arteria or Arash, only Media, because the last time she died in 1 second against Gilgamesh, and I do not want her to die again. But not as if I will separate from her again. There are still many months before the Great Grail War begins, but I decided to call my servants now, so I drew 3 summoning circles on the ground. 2 of them are alike while the third is different. The different circle is the one that will respond to the special summoning chant, while the normal summoning circles will be desirable for the chant normally. I put Medea's skull in the middle of the special summons, while I am not happy with the fact that I am defiling Medea's body, but I have to use it in order to make sure that I do not call Medea Lily in an accident. This will be very embarrassing. As for Artoria, I could have used Rongominiad but Lancer might be called because of that, and while I think she's great, I only want to remove Artoria from Avalon, so I temporarily removed Avalon from my chest. As for Arash, I used a piece of his armor that I borrowed from Lore College from the Clock Tower. I had to provide a reason for doing this, but I said that I would participate in the Holy Grail War. This was not something that should be hidden because everyone knows that I participated in the 4th Holy Grail War. Also, it is not as if the Clock Tower will publish this news. Some failed mages may sell it in exchange for some resources, except that mages are people who care about their reputation inside the Clock Tower, and trying to make enemies with a genius and enforcer is just stupidity, especially since there is a possibility that this person will survive and take revenge. Anyway, before I starting the summoning rituals, I took out a fairy cloud and put it in my hand. I breathed deeply before I spoke. I hope, if I summoned the Princess of Colchis, Medea, that she will be able to remember what happened in the 4th Holy Grail War that happened 10 years ago and in this timeline. The cloud glowed in a golden light for a few moments before it decreased a little in size. Seeing this I smiled. It seems that this cloud was not useless after all. I have one small wish and I think it will be beneficial in the future. For some reason I have this 6th sense that I should save it, so I put it in my storage before I stand between the 3 summoning circles, extend my left hand forward, and start the summoning ritual. You who fell once before, I am who still standing here is calling you. Follow my prayers, my determination will shape your body, and your strength will shape my future. If your quest for the Holy Grail is to ascend and not to fall, obey my reasons and my will. The 3 summoning circles began to glow in bright white magic energy. With my oath to you, I shall be all the good in the world, and I shall destroy all evil in the world. If you wish to be my sword and shield, obey my call. In a bright explosion of white light 3 characters were formed. In front of me there was a beautiful woman who looked like from a fairy tale with purple hair and a mysterious blue robe, a blonde teenage girl wearing a blue dress with a knight's armor, and a man with a bright smile wearing a blue armor. I resisted the urge to say anything and used my abilities as a master to see their condition, just to make sure nothing went wrong. True name, Medea. Class, Caster. Parameter, Strength, E+. Endurance, D. Agility, C. Mana, A+. Luck, A. NP, C. Class skills. Item construction, A. Territory creation, A. Personal skills. High-speed divine words, A. Golden fleece, X. Teaching of Circe, A. Poison resistance, A. Divinity, C. Noble phantasms. Rule breaker, C. Pain breaker, C. Argon coin, N/A. True name, Arash. Class, Archer. Parameter, Strength, B. Endurance, A. Agility, B+. Mana, E. Luck, D. NP, B++. Class skills. Magic resistance, C. Independent action, C. Personal skills. Rebul's health, X. Clairvoyant, A. Bow and arrow creation, A. NP. Stella, B++. True name, Arteria Pendragon. Class, Saber. Parameter, Strength, A. Endurance, A. Agility, A. Mana, A. Luck, A+. NP, A++. Class skills. Magic resistance, A. Riding, B. Personal skills. Charisma, B. Mana burst, A. Instinct, A. NP. Excalibur, A++. Invisible air, C. Seeing this, I smiled comfortably. It seems that Medea was in her peak really. Unfortunately it is not eligible for other classes like Assassin or Avenger, otherwise it will be able to acquire many additional skills, and it seems that she has also acquired her younger version skills as well as Pain Breaker. As for Arash, he is at its peak, it seems, because as an archer, he is less affected by the system of classes. As for Artoria, she is stronger than she was in her life, it seems, perhaps because I am a qualified master. They were confused, but like any servant, they said in one man's voice, "Are you my master?" "No." I said, "I really want to hug Medea now, but it seems I have to wait." "Luke, I am your father." The silence lasted moments. It seems that I inadvertently created a strange atmosphere similar to what happened several years ago. The only difference is that we are now 4 people and not just 2 people, but it seems that I did not have me to moisturize the atmosphere this time. However, I summoned Avalon and Medea's skull into my inventory again. Well, I'm Arash, Master. Nice to meet you, Arash said when he approached me and reached out to me to shake his hand. Well, Arash, I had the honor to know you, but for the sake of secrecy I will call you Archer of Black. I'm Victor Von Doom. I told him while I looked at him for a moment, but I went back to looking at Medea. Even though she was wearing her mask covering the top half of her face, I could tell that she had been staring at me for a while. Victor, she said as she tilted her head to the side. In the Fourth Holy Grail War, I was only 10 years old and I was very different from now. Currently, I am 20 years old with a height of 185 centimeters. I also have a little muscular body as I look like I do regular exercises every morning, although that my hair is still black and my eyes are still green except that I can make my eyes adopt a red bloody color if I wanted to. It was because of the dragonkind modification. It seems that she is having difficulty getting to know me. Medea, I smiled at her and approached her a little, but I didn't touch her because she might think this was weird. So guys, do you know each other? You're a caster? Did you pass away recently, or was Master really old? Arash asked with a smile. I am dead 2,700 years ago, Archer, Medea answered quietly before asking me anyway. Victor, how long has it been? I was about to answer, but Arteria, Saber, who was silent from the start, decided to speak at last. By virtue of the fact that the Holy Grail War is an event that takes time every 60 years, and I remember that he was 10 years old, I suppose he is now 70 years old. Arteria said. I looked at her, she seems to remember me clearly, and she seems to have chosen not to hide that she remembers the previous war either because she saw that Medea also remembered, or because she had a superficial knowledge of me since the previous war. Nor was it strange that she knew that Castor was my servant in the previous war. When a battle occurred between 2 servants all masters watched, although I am not sure of her reaction to the fact that I killed Lancelot, but I still think I did a good thing in ending his life. Everyone hates being berserkers. Hey, do you know him too? You all participated in the previous Holy Grail War. Yes, Arteria replied, it's not good memories. So 60 years have passed. Medea asked me, you don't look that old. It has only been 10 years. I told her while I got close to her, and she hugged her tightly. It is nice to see you again, Medea. She was shorter than me, and physically weaker than me, so when I hugged her, it looked as if I was pressing her on my chest, and although she didn't hug me at first, she did a few seconds later. I miss you, Medea, I whispered to her ear, ignoring the fact that 2 people were watching us. I don't know what to say, Victor, but I need to breathe, she said to me. I let her go and I turned towards Arash and Arteria. While I wanted to talk to them a little bit, but just Arash and Arteria can wait. Archer, I want you to explore the city and map it, and if you can, I also want you to draw a map of the sewers and discover other masters if they get here. Okay, master. Arash answered lively, it is good that he is the loyal type as long as you treat him well. Saber, I want you to stay informed of the information Archer provides. Planning is not one of my talents, and because you have experience in this field as a former king I will leave this to you, okay? I asked her. Okay, master. She answered me with a strong voice. Saber. I called her name. Yes. Can you also not make direct combat always your first choice? I understand that this is because you are a knight and everything, but apart from you, Archer and Castor cannot display their full strength in direct combat, I said to her. While I am sure I can defeat ordinary servants in ease in direct combat, but Arash cannot fight directly against people in the Saber, Berserker and Lancer class, especially since his noble phantasm is a suicide attack. As for Medea, I will not let her engage in close combat. Castor was supposed to use her magic to support her allies and weaken her enemies, and not to fight an adversary that is physically stronger than her several times. A few moments of silence, Arteria said, okay, master. Both of them entered into their spiritual state. Presumably Arash had begun his work immediately. Arteria on the other hand may still be here and spying on me like a ghost. So what should I do, Victor? Medea asked me. I remember you told me that the Holy Grail is really unholy. Why did you participate in it again? The Holy Grail is no longer damaged, Medea, which means we can have a wish, I told her with a smile. Really? How is that? By the way, why do I have memories of the previous Holy Grail War? She asked me. The Holy Grail was used as a womb by Avenger, an extra-class servant in the Holy Grail War of 1938, and was slowly transforming into a known entity as all the world's evil, but this evil creature was defeated by a hero with green eyes. I was silent for a moment before complete. As for your memories, I have found a way to give them to you. I hope you don't mind. I see, said Medea while she got into a meditating state, although I have to tell you something. Is there something? I don't really have those memories, it's like reading a book, so even though I can reach them, I don't really have them, without any experience or feelings. What do you think of this? She removed her mask and looked at me while she was smiling. It seems that although she does not really have these memories, she decided to be friendly with me because of those memories, or maybe she plans to betray me and it is something close to zero, but I think that she is affected by these memories. Although I was not really happy with this news, the fairy cloud did at least something and was able to relieve those memories, and also, I own media in front of me now. Finally, the goal of me that last 10 years is over. I see I nodded in my head. Well, that's fine. You do not feel dissatisfied or anything? She asked me while she tilted her head. Why would I be? It's not like you're dead or something. I honestly told her, it is also natural that you do not embrace these memories because you were summoned again in a different war. She smiled and said, so, I know you wanted to tell me something before I died before, maybe you don't remember this but I'll ask you anyway. Oh. I thought for a moment if I had to tell her. My feelings were starting to develop at that time. I had a doctorate in psychology, so I know that my feelings started because I was a broken-hearted child, and because Medea was a beautiful and kind and brave witch and do anything I want, but for a long time I think my feelings for her are real. Saying this to her may cause an awkward situation, which is what I really don't want, since she is quite someone else. I prefer slowly building my relationship with her. I don't remember, it was 10 years ago. I told her with a smile. Anyway, you have a divinity C rank. It's really high because you haven't owned it before, but what does your divinity really do? I am the granddaughter of the sun god, Helios, so it mostly gives me resistance to fire or an increase in damage with fire. I did not own it in my life so I do not know much, but it seems that its rank has fallen because I hate the gods, she said without any indifference. It seems that she does not mind share secrets she shared with me before. I nodded, but unfortunately Medea is not an expert in the magic of fire. Medea, I want to talk to you a lot. What do you think about going to another place? I told her while I extended my hand towards her. She looked at me surprisingly for a few seconds before holding my hand. She smiled and pulled me with me. I completed the mission that tells me to take it back, but one mission can wait. Many months have passed quickly, unexpectedly. Perhaps this is the quietest and most peaceful of my life, without any devil like Mephisto planning to start the era of demons, or any evil god like Angra Mainyu trying to exterminate humanity. I haven't even trained my magecraft like I used to do before. The strength of both modern magecraft and magecraft from the Age of Gods has reached the limits of the magecraft. Anything beyond this is true magic. At my level this is all I can do to advance is gathering knowledge from different branches of thaumaturgy and magecraft of different quality from my own. On the other hand, I continued with my regular routine, working like enforcer of Mage Association, and spending time with my twin sister, Valeria Rachel Von Doom, although she is not the girl from my childhood anymore, but now she at least considers me a brother of her. As a brother, I have to spoil her and agree to all of her behaviors even if it's wrong. Nevertheless, I was also building my relationship with each of my 3 servants, Arash, Artoria, and Medea, especially Medea. Although servants are familiar beings summoned by the Holy Grail to fight alongside the Master, they were not pets or slaves, so that command seals are useless because many servants have magic resistance or skill that gives them resistance against command seals. Evib that loyal and obedient servants have a chance to betray you or kill you if they don't like you. Precisely for this reason, apart from Medea that has an evil alignment, I chose Artoria Pendragon who has a lawful good alignment, because even if she don't like me she won't betray me because she is a knight. Betrayal is not really in her dictionary. As for Arash, although his alignment is chaotic neutral, in view of a personality, he is the type who will never betray his master as long as his master does not exceed his principles, and as long as his master treats him well and does not betray him first. In addition to that I could learn his distinct skill, bow and arrow creation, although my class B is only, as long as I possess the right materials I can create the bow immediately, and similar to Arash, I can create arrows with only my magic energy, which it gives me the ability to shoot an endless number of arrows intermittently. Therefore, while I have command seals, it is only the last means of safety, the original purpose of which is not to compel the servant to obey you, but in order to kill him after defeating the other servants. According to Mockery Zalgen's notes, this was the only way to achieve the third magic for them. Regardless of which I used to do my usual stuff. Medea has converted Ryuta Temple to her temple again after everyone's brains are washed. These people are brainwashed frequently. Their luck must be less than 0. The reason for doing this was not obtaining mana from the Lay's line, because she was attracting unlimited prana from me, who was attracting her from Elia, but obtaining a temple gave her a strategic advantage in addition to enhancing her magical abilities. As for Arash, Archer, he was responsible for gathering information, exploring, monitoring and observing the city in the event of other masters and servants arriving, or in the event that someone summoned a new servant, and this was not really difficult thanks to his Hawkeye. As for Artoria, because I have been entrusted with the task of planning, she does not do anything specially regardless of whether she accompanies Medea a lot. Luckily my Medea was not obsessed with her. She previously asked me about my opinion about her reign. I answered her honestly and told her that the mistakes she made were more than the rights, but nothing emotional or dramatic. Perhaps the reason for her question was that I was a master of Lancelot in the past, and I do not think I changed her mind, as I didn't even tried. For me, I used to spend my free time with Medea, just that it is another copy that does not mean that it is not Medea, and I have been trying to get close to it several times. Luckily my attempts were having its effects. Unlike modern era magus who are having difficulty learning magecraft the Age of Gods, although Medea cannot get true magic but magecraft is easy for her, so we started a mutual learning session. Medea was one of the 5 most powerful magus, and although I own her spells, she had a great experience that she could pass on to me. She was surprised when she knew I could use her magecraft. For me, I taught her modern magecraft, especially the magecraft of fire, and thanks to her divinity from the sun god she could learn everything relatively easily. Of course I taught her many things other than the magecraft of fire. I also told her about all the things that I did after the 4th Holy War of the Grave, from killing me to Zukanmado to returning home to find out that my dad is dead, and how I was hunting phantasm beasts. I also told her about my hunting of the sins, wrath, envy, greed, sloth, lust, gluttony, and even I told her that I killed Mephisto and Angra Mainyu. While I didn't really expect her to believe me from the start, Argus, Kalchi's dragon, was working as a trusted witness even though he and Medea were not in sync. Me and Medea also made a suitable summon spell, so Medea could have summoned her own version of the useless golden dragon. Also, by studying her divinity skill, it appears that due to the Medea hatred to the gods in addition to her legend of the Witch of Betrayal, this skill was greatly reduced, but it is assumed that it must be at least a Medea must have reached the throne of the gods. If it not been for the fact that I had deceived the rules, then Medea would not have awakened her divinity. Also, thanks to the completion of my mission Lost Love, I got 500,000 EXP and NP in the form of 2 marriage rings. As long as there are 2 people of the opposite sex who wear it, they will always know the location and condition of the other person as long as he is in the same dimension. It is like a magical marriage contract, and even if the partner is in another dimension or timeline, the other partner can know if he is alive or dead. Name, Lost Love Rings. Owner, unspecified, Victor Von Doom. Type, anti-unit. Rank, E. Range, dash. Maximum number of targets, 2. This was a little ironic. Among an unlimited number of noble phantasms, I got wedding rings. At first I thought I would ask for Medea's hand after the Holy Grail War ended. I think I love her enough, and I also think I would love to live a quiet life with her. However, the last time I thought about the same thing, after the Holy Grail War, but I didn't even have the opportunity to see her again. The person knows what he is missing only after losing it, and I don't want to become this person again. Also, compared to the 4th Holy Grail War where I spent 2 weeks with her, my chances are higher now. Medea, can I ask you something? I asked her when I sat at the table in front of her. Of course, Victor, what do you want? She smiled at me when she lifted her head off the book. I had been thinking about this for a very long time, and I was planning at first to wait after this war ended. Your answer is really important, I told her honestly, while I grabbed her hands. Huh? What? She said to me as she smiled naively. Her cheeks were a little red. Perhaps this was one of the few times that I had an intimate interaction with her. I had been building my relationship with her for a year, and even if she hadn't loved me at first, she was now, I'm sure, otherwise I wouldn't have taken my step. Will you marry me? What? She asked me shockedly, and her eyes expanded a little. Maybe she wasn't really expecting to ask her, but I've already made up my mind. I want to complete my life with her. Will you marry me? I asked her again while I tightened my hands. I don't know what to really say, she told me while she seemed to be focusing. I love you, this is what I wanted to say for years, and until now. But, why do you ask me to marry? I am the Witch of Betrayal. I might look kind and beautiful, but are you not afraid that I will betray you, cut your body to pieces? I closed my eyes. I was not really a person to neutralize emotional talk, so I decided to tell her only the truth. I know you are not like this, your kindness and beauty are the real you, and I love you. She looked at me for a long time before she smiled. Okay, but before I answer you, don't say I didn't warn you. I nodded. And, you know that I am not the real Medea. I am just a copy created by the Holy Grail for the purpose of participating in the ritual, right? I am not even the Medea that you previously summoned. Yes, but... I smiled at her. You are the one with me. Also, can you stop looking for excuses? That's mean. She told me before she smiled. My answer is, yes. I raised my eyebrow slightly before I realized that she really agreed. Since I was holding her hands, I pulled it towards me and kissed her for the first time lightly in her lips. This. I ignored her bumbling and took the ring out of my pocket. Can I? Victor, I'm so happy, she said while she gave me her left hand. I grabbed her and put the ring on her middle finger. This is it, my happy ending. After all that has happened, it's really over. Ayaka Seihayo made room in her living room by pushing the couches and the table to the side, and although she believes this is annoying, she does not think she has an opinion on this. Originally, Ayaka belonged to a small family of magus practicing formalcraft and witchcraft, and the only reason they were considered mages may be due to formalcraft. After all, witches are not welcome among the mages community. When she was young, her parents were killed by an ordinary thief, which caused her orphanage and her going to live with her relatives America, and while she kept her parents' books on magecraft, she could not force herself to practice magecraft before. While she belonged to the family line of the magus, and possesses 30 circuits with a C rank in quality, it is because of the shock that her parents were killed in front of her eyes in her infancy that made her unable to kill live animals, which is what her family magecraft requires. 20 years after the establishment of the Shinto Fuyaki region, Ayaka was a student who rented the second room on the 11th floor of Seimana's apartments. There was a family suicide in the fall, and Ayaka was witness to it. However, it was not really a suicide, it was a murder. There was an old man who took the family of their neck and sucked blood from their bodies. Since she was a magus, she got to know the identity of this creature, dead apostle, a vampire. Since she was an untrained magus, she had no chance against Dead Apostle, so she accepted her fate, but contrary to her own expectations, the Dead Apostle used his mystic eyes of enchantment to calm her down before giving her a choice. The first option is that he will make her forget everything and she will go on a journey for self-knowledge without telling anyone, and the second option is to participate in the Holy Grail War. Since she was magus from Fuyaki, she knew what the Holy Grail was, as her parents were planning to take part in it but they had no opportunity. With no other option that does not require her disappearance or death, she accepted to participate in the game of death called the Holy Grail War. According to the words of the vampire, it seems that this war will be between two factions. Each faction consists of 7 masters and servants. Even the Dead Apostle gave her a proper catalyst, Avalon, and he told her that by using it you could summon King Arthur or at least one of the members of the Round Table. Ayaka drew the summoning circle on the ground of her apartment and began talking the summoning chant of the Red faction. The summons began to glow with white light and magical energy condensed to form a person who appears in his late teen to his early 20s. He has golden blonde hair with several streaks of red hair. He wears a set of white knight armor and a crimson mantle. "Are you my master?" the knight said when he saw Ayaka. "What? No, I mean, yes," Ayaka confusedly said. "Ha ha ha, okay master, do you have a name?" The knight smiled upon seeing the expression of his master. "Yes, I'm Ayaka Seihayu, and you?" "I'm Saber of Red, Richard the Lionheart." "Anyway, should we try to find members of our faction?" I think so, unity is strength and in." Before Ayaka could finish her words, Richard jumped in front of him and used his sword to hit several knives was thrown towards her, and Richard remained in a defensive position in front of her. "What is that?" Ayaka panicked. "Another servant, given that he tried to assassinate you with throwing weapons, I suppose he is an assassin," Richard said earnestly. Again, Richard rotated around Ayaka and withheld another set of knives that were thrown from a different angle. "Expose yourself? Assassin!" Richard shouted. Because of the tightness of the apartment he could not use his full potential without destroying the building. "Good to see you again after death, Lionheart," said Dark Shadow from the back from the corner of the room. "You, Hassan," said Richard, confusedly, when he got to know this person. "I didn't think he would see you again, it's really nice to see you," said Richard, confusedly, when he got to know this person. "I really hope our feelings are mutual, but I do not have these sexual orientation," said Hassan Isaba as he stepped back. "Haha, I want to ask you, you don't happen to be in the Red faction, right?" "Unfortunately no. So you wanna fight me now?" Richard said while preparing his sword. "The assassination has already failed, bye," he said Assassin of Black before retreating into the shadows. Richard sheathed his sword and turned towards Ayaka. "It was so close. You know that servant?" Ayaka asked Richard confusedly. "Yes, we too as well as Saladin have launched a crusade against Dead Apostles," Richard said briefly. Ayaka was about to say something but Richard boycotted her. "Hey, is this Avalon? The real Avalon?" The Fifth Holy Grail War, also known as the Great Holy Grail War, officially started because a large number of masters summoned their servants. Just a few hours ago it was confirmed that Rin Tosaka had summoned her servant, Archer dressed in red and had brown skin and white hair. It was rather strange that Rin Tosaka could summon Emi Yashiro on this timeline as well, but I had no questions about this. Archer also discovered the arrival of Karen Hortensia, who had many command seals in his hand. Since the church could not send a judge in a war that had a ruler, I assumed she is a master in the war. Arash discovered both Atram Galiasta and Marisbury Animasphere and Kenneth El Meloy Archibald together. It seemed that they were allied and it seemed that their servants were in a state of spirit. I was not surprised by the participation of both Atram and Marisbury, but Kenneth's participation was surprising especially after what happened to him in the last war. It seems that he decided to participate in order to restore his honor and gain glory, and perhaps also repair his body completely by the miracle wish of the Grail. For Marisbury, he seems to have decided to participate despite his belief that the Holy Grail is corrupted only in order to summon a servant and search for allies, or that he has discovered that the Holy Grail is not corrupted anymore. The second possibility is too big. It is difficult to guess the identity of their servants without seeing them, but I will assume that Marisbury's servant is a caster because his servant in Fate Grand Order was a caster. Arash discovered both Grey and her servant who was guarding her from the shade. Her servant was a lancer with a short body and Chinese features. It was not difficult to guess that her identity is Qin Lianjiao, especially with my eye for art. Waver was with them too. He seems to be trying to overcome his phobia. Shinji Mato summoned Assassin, Hassan of the Blood Melody surreptitiously on Korea, and joined my faction. It wasn't difficult to make him trust me because he knew I was a family friend because I had visited them several times in the past. Bazit Frogumgrammitz also accepted my invitation and came to where she could summon Lancer, Cu Kulane, without any incidents or interruptions because Kyare Kotomine was not here to kill her. On the other hand, Iliasville von Einsburn reached Fuyaki several hours ago but did not come to my palace. Instead, she went to the Einsburn family palace in the woods. Because of me killing Angra Mainyu, the Dark Grail lost its dark properties and became usable like a regular Lesser Grail, so Iliasville's sacrifice was not really necessary in order to activate the Greater Grail. While I did not go to her, I made Arash introduce himself and help her if she really needed it. While I do not have any benefit from that, but it would not be appropriate for a kid-looking girl to die, I have Morales. On the other hand, Hassan of the Blood Melody discovered that Ayaka Seihayo made a summoning and tried to kill her and fail. Shinji blamed him a little, and while I was a little dissatisfied, at least Assassin was able to know the identity of the servant, Saber, Richard of the Lionheart. It seems that Hassan of the Blood Melody was the same person who was an ally of both Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. It would have been great if Saladin had been summoned too. Although Richard will be a very difficult enemy, especially his ability to summon other heroic spirits and Godspeed that gives him unlimited speed, and because this is a different Holy Grail war, I will assume that he has different skills. Fortunately, Artoria can match and defeat him, while both possess Excalibur, but Arturia has the original, and so on. She is also superior. Luviage Lita Edelfelt was discovered coming with her servant, a brown man in civilian clothes. Finding who he was also wasn't that difficult. Ozymandias, the Egyptian version of Gilgamesh. While these two lived in Edelfelt Palace which had been empty for 70 years, both of Maresbury, Atram, and Kaneth chose an island very close to Fuyaki as a base, while Waver and Grey rented a small house, Karen chose the church, and Ayaka stayed in her apartment. Earlier, I sent Lancer and Bazit in order to search for the enemy servant and test their strength. Secretly, I also made Shinji send Assassin in order to support them in case of bad conditions. While I remained in my palace, I monitored them all from my crystal ball. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps luck, or destiny, but Lancer ended up fighting Emiya in the high school yard. Lancer was superior in both speed and strength on Emiya. In fact, every time the Gi Balg, Kanchao, and Bakia collided, Bakia and Kanchao was destroyed, but Emiya makes another one almost immediately by using projection. After some time, Lancer went back several meters and smiled. Haha, I finally discovered your identity, Saber. You are the famous blacksmith, Ganjong? Your two swords revealed your identity. Actually, I'm not that person, and I'm Archer. Emiya said quietly as he got into another combat situation. He is Saber, and he is Satan. A girl with black hair and red clothes said when she went out of the school building. For God's sake, Rin. I'm not the fucking Satan. Emiya shouted upon hearing the words of his master, and for God's sake has permitted Rin, do you understand anything about finding a safe haven? Good try Satan, but you must destroy him now. Stop playing with him, Rin said as she stepped back. Under normal circumstances, the Holy Grail should not be able to summon powerful beings such as Satan, Lancer said while placing his spear in front of him. No, I'm telling you, I'm not Satan. Emiya corrected Lancer. Nice try. Lancer said vehemently, but since fate has written that we have to fight here, it is my responsibility to destroy an evil and sinister being like you. Gi. Lancer said, as his spear began to glow and fog in red, and with that, before he could finish off his noble phantasm's operation, something happened. Berserker, attack. A girl's voice was heard from the side, and at the next moment Cu Colane was beaten by someone and he was thrown as a bird until he collided with the school wall. The person who attacked him was a man with a height of 3 meters, possessing animal traits such as a bull horns over his head and wearing an iron shield. The fuck? Emiya said while he slid back. Are you from the red faction? A girl with white hair and dressed in priestess said when she approached Rin Tosaka. What yes? Are you? Said Rin, confusedly. Yes, my servant is Berserker, and you? My name is Karen, by the way. My servant is Saber, Rin said proudly, and he's Satan. As I watched the battle unfold, someone wrapped his arms around my neck back and kissed me in my cheek. I smiled and turned towards Medea and kissed her deeply in the lips. While we did not use our tongue but it was emotional, after several seconds I separated our kiss. So what happens on the battlefield? Medea asked me when she sat in a chair next to me. Unexpectedly, things are very good. I replied, while I did not remove my eyes from the crystal ball, but I held the hand of Medea in a way that intertwined our fingers. In the past few days after I asked for her hand, and her agreement of it, we became so close as real couples, we even made love, while it was impossible for her to become pregnant because her body is made of ether, but this did not prevent us from trying so hard. Every time I wake up in the morning and find it next to me, every time she tries to prepare food and fail with it, every time she smiles towards me, every time she wraps her arms around my neck and kisses me, I feel that my life has made sense. Previously, all I knew before was studying, training, hunting phantasm species, getting a new noble phantasm and learning a new magecraft spell, and killing a creature that threatened the earth and humanity before I went back to a cold room and sleep only to repeat the same thing the next day. I didn't even care if I died or not. But now I own someone I live for, someone I want to protect, someone who loves me and I love her, while I care for my sister, but this is because she is not only my sister, but my twins. While the time that I was in the womb was chaotic randomly, I could hardly have formed one idea, but she was sharing the room with me. Does Lancer win? Medea asked me. No, he's being hit hard by Berserker like any other Lancer. I corrected her. On the battlefield, Lancer has been trying hard not to get hit by Berserker, who seems to be Astrios, while Hassan of the Bloody Melody got in and started fighting Emiya, while he was losing slowly, but he was dealing with the issue in a good way. Hassan of the Bloody Melody was not really weak in close combat. On the other hand, Karen and Rin were fighting Bazit directly, while Bazit couldn't use Froggerach because of his limitations, but she was physically strong and strengthened her body by runes, so she could fight both Karen and Rin equally with mastery, preventing Rin from using her jewels. Good joke, dear. I know that you killed Lancer in the last war by Berserker. She smiled, before she focused on the crystal ball as well. I know this berserker, Medea said when she noticed Astrios. Oh really? I told her randomly. Yes, he is Astrios, my cousin. I had never seen him before, but I heard that he was imprisoned in a maze that he could never escape from because he was a monstrous beast hybrid. Medea told me quietly. Apparently she thought I was lacking this information. Let's continue washing, I told her with a smile, as my hands tightened her hand. Emiya avoided the knives that Assassin was firing from his arm while he banned some of them using Kanshou and Bakia. He had been trying to get close to Assassin for a while, but Assassin was good at keeping away from the enemy. Around the same time, Siyu Kulain took advantage of the fact that Astrios was slower than him and dodged his axes before he drew many Ansas runes in the air, causing a fiery explosion in the face of Astrios. Then Siyu Kulain jumped over Astrios before trying to stab him in the head by Gi Balg. Gi. Suddenly, a knight in a white shield and wearing a red robe jumped toward Kulain and attempted to stab him with his sword. Fortunately Kulain blocked the sword with his spear. Well, this is starting to get boring. This is the second time I'm about to kill my opponent, but I'm interrupted. Lancer said when he stood a few meters away. Well, even though I don't like interrupting others' battles, I couldn't have let a friend die. Richard the Lionheart said with a smile. And who are you? I am Saber of Red. Proudly, Richard said. Don't try to trick me. Saber is Satan over there. Kulain Sykes angrily and pointed towards Emiya. I told you, I'm not the fucking Satan. Emiya yelled and banned Hassan's knives at the same time, narrowed the distance between them and tried to kill Hassan by Kanshou and Bakia. However, Hassan used disengage to get away from Emiya before throwing several knives towards him, after which Hassan went into Bayzit's battle against Rin and Karen. Hassan was about to use Zabaniya, Dead Heartbeat Melody, to kill Rin instantly, but suddenly Emiya quickly appeared in front of him and he waved both Kanshou and Bakia and cut Hassan's right arm. Fool. Hassan said before turning around and started running away. Seeing this, Emiya started chasing him. Lancer of Black, Siyu Kulain, avoided Axe of Astrios and banned Richard's sword at the same time, while he could fight them equally, but Richard was increasing in speed over time. At first it was easy for Kulain to fight them evenly, but after only 2 minutes he started to feel as hard as it is. Fortunately that Astrios was not as dangerous to him as Richard is. Of course, this does not mean that his strokes are not affected, while Richard is skilled and quick, but every time Kulain blocks an Astrios axe he feels his arms are shaking. This idiot, said Richard before stepping back and letting Astrios deal with Siyu Kulain. Richard headed towards Bayzit's battle against Rin and Karen as the Hassan of Bloody Melody arm had turned into a giant of blades and the giant had tried to crush both Karen and Rin. It appears that despite her combat superiority, Karen realizes its boundaries and decides to retreat immediately, while Rin kicks Bayzit and retreats before throwing several small jewels over the giant. These jewels instantly transformed into a crystal dome that pressed the giant onto the ground while Rin go to safety. Seeing this, Richard knew that this was his chance. The giant was the arm and strength of the Hassan of the Bloody Melody, so destroying it would be a huge loss to the enemy if Emiya couldn't kill Assassin. Axe, said Richard as he raised his sword up before waving it. Caliber. Perhaps because Bayzit was one of the enemy's masters, he did not care about the fact that she would be hit by his attack as well, and the golden beam immediately passed through and destroyed Hassan's arm. Berserker. With an angry screaming sound, a large, black, and angry creature appeared in front of Bayzit and used his body and arms to block Richard's attack, and although he prevented the attack from reaching Bayzit, this person, Heracles, was thrown backwardly flying. My god, Richard said when he saw that his attempt to kill the master of Lancer had failed. On the other hand, it seems that Heracles was killed, but his body did not disappear. Instead a hot smoke began to emerge from it. Richard Lionheart sighed internally and quickly approached Bayzit in an attempt to kill her again. In normal cases, as a proud king and knight he would not try to kill a person who is much weaker than him in this war. After all, he does not even have a wish. However, his master's orders were very accurate, while Ayaka did not tell him to kill the other masters. However, she told him to win as soon as possible. Also, Richard was not one of the people who were reluctant to kill masters in this war. War is war. When there was less than 1 meter between Bayzit and Richard, some birds made of white wire attacked Richard for obstructing him, while he could easily destroy them, but someone began to shoot arrows continuously towards him, putting Richard in a complete defensive position. However, it seemed that conditions worsened only because at about the same moment Siyu Kulain threw his spear at him. Fortunately Richard could have avoided him quickly by jumping to the side. Now this was dick move. Siyu Kulain angrily said, you dare to try to kill a lady because you couldn't kill her knight, and here I thought all the sabers were honest and proud. Defending myself, she was the enemy, said Richard while he continued to ban arrows and try to figure out where to throw them. Bayzit, get out of this battlefield immediately, said Siyu Kulain to his master via the mental channel linking them. However, Lancer called up his spear in his hand and began to fight Astrios again. On the other hand, Richard believed that the enemy berserker, Heracles, was dead. After only a few moments, Richard the Lionheart was punched strong enough to send him flying toward the school wall, while Heracles shouted loudly and jumped over to Richard, the latter immediately avoiding his attack. Fortunately, he had an eye of the mind, true, in the B rank, otherwise he could not get out of his headache and avoid so quickly. On the other hand, Rin and Karen had entered the school building in order to escape from the other side and avoid anyone trying to discover them, but suddenly several birds made of the white wire attacked him, while Rin used Gandra and destroyed 2 birds, Karen using reinforcement magecraft to give her body enough strength to tear up a single bird. What is that? Rin said. The enemy, answered Karen briefly while raising her caution. From the end of the corridor in front of them, a little girl who does not seem to be more than 12 years old, has white hair, red eyes, and has purple clothes. This is Einsborn homunculi, Rin cautiously said. Hello, Nei-chan. You didn't really expect that you could escape without being discovered by anyone, right? She said with a smile. Damn. Rin cursed under her breath. Ilya simply smiled and made several additional familiars and used them to attack both Rin and Karen. Karen was hoping well, because she had been trained from a young age to be a human weapon. She had no difficulty in overcoming these familiars. On the other hand, Rin was facing little difficulty when the fighting became close to range, but she managed to win. Rin immediately approached Ilya and attempted the attack, but Ilya used Mystic Eyes of Binding to paralyze Rin and try to kill her, but Karen sent the black key to Ilya, who retracted in order not to hit him, but still she is hit in the arm. Assassin is dead. Medea said while she showed me the scene where Assassin of Black, Hassan of the Bloody Melody, was killed by Emiya, while the latter went to school again. Shinji seems to be out of the game now, I said quietly. Should I step in? Medea told me. This is impossible. I will tell Arash to take Ilya's veil and run away, and tell Berserker to run away too. Please Victor, I can bring this victory, just trust me, Medea said. If we hesitate for a few more seconds, Lancer and Berserker will be defeated. I looked a little. I cannot allow this, but I will intervene when things go wrong, or I will send Artoria. Also, I gave her Siki, who went through 4 stages of complete ascension and averaged B++ stats, and Medea owned Kalchi's dragon too. In no way, Medea was not the weakest servant in this war. And with my endless mana reserves, she can maximize her power. Maybe I can allow this, but no. I categorically told her, I'll go in. I just want you to watch me, okay? She looked at me a little bit before she kissed me. I love that you are so protective, dear. I smiled before I told Arash to make both Cu Kulain and Hercules run away and take Ilyasville with him. Upon hearing his confirmation, I immediately wore my Doom armor and moved Anya towards the schoolyard where both Lancer and Hercules had just fled. Greetings, I told them while I used a shield function to amplify my voice. And who exactly are you? Richard said when he turned towards me. I fired a hum from my mouth, but I avoided the axe of Astrios. I ignored Richard for a second and I struck Astrios with all my physical strength with a punch in his chin that sent him flying 15 meters above the ground, while I at the same time took out the Gibadhi and intercepted Richard's sword, who at the same time jumped back again. I quickly rushed towards him and punched him in the face with enough force to make him hit the school wall and break it hard. I rotated and held the axes of Astrios, who was managing their use of my segment. Because of this, he started pressuring me with his weight and strength. My physical strength is almost in A and is greatly increased by monstrous strength X, while Astrios' strength is in A+++ and is greatly increased due to monstrous strength A. I pushed him back a little by gaining the opportunity to kick him firmly in his chest, just enough to destabilize his body, before I punched him in his chest and sent him back. I flipped back to avoid Richard's sword, while I made an Argos wall to block Emiya's arrows, which then immediately pulled out the Kanshou and Bakia and jumped towards me in an attempt to attack me. I immediately avoided him, but he quickly turned around and was about to touch my shield, but before he did that he completely freezed. I retreated a little bit to put a distance between me and the 3 warriors. Well, isn't this some kind of a surprise? I said, with a hint of entertainment. It seems the boss like me more than she like you, Saber. What have you done to me? Emiya said as his body started moving again. I did not do anything. I simply said, but you have to go now, actual Satan. It looks as though Emiya is about to explode, but he immediately retracted when he saw that Richard had already left, leaving just me and Astrios. Astrios also tried to retreat, but I used Atlas to freeze it in place by compressing air around his body, before I took Envy out and cut it from the bottom to the sky. Envy, a blade that cuts the world. I said while a blade of compressed energy cut off the body of Astrios and headed to the sky. You killed a Berserker of Red, Astrios, you gained 2 million EXP. You killed Berserker of Red, Astrios, you can choose 2 skills and 1 Noble Phantasm. Skills. Mad Enhancement, B. Monstrous Strength, A. Natural Monster, A++. Labrid of the Abyss, C. Noble Phantasm. Chaos Labyrinthos, X. I choose the Noble Phantasm and I closed the list. Astrios' skills were not more useful skills than harmful skills. Fortunately I can choose the skills or Noble Phantasms individually. After yesterday's events, no skirmishes occurred between the 2 factions, but the fact that 2 servants were killed on the first day is still hard to believe. It seems that the master of Astrios, Karen, stayed with Rin Tosaka after the death of her servant. It seems that she did not expect to be the first person to lose from the Red faction. On the other hand, Ayaka Seihayu and her servant Richard the Lionheart joined along with Rin as well, who seemed to have decided to form an alliance. While Hassan of the Bloody Melody died without achieving anything, at least Shinji could return to his normal daily life. Well, after the Holy Grail War had ended in order to ensure that no one would try to kill him. On the other hand, it seems ruler, who I am certain was Saint Martha, did not interfere when I killed the Astrios. I wonder whether it was because of my counter-guardian or because I am a master in this war. On the other hand, Saint Martha probably will not interfere at all because she is like ruler. She will not care about the Holy Grail because it is fake and not the original copy that Christ possessed. With the death of one servant in each faction, the two sides are now equal, which means that people who did not participate on the first day will feel the need to move, and if they do not, then I will. I tried to contact Luviage Lita Edelfelt to persuade her to enter into an alliance with us, but she refused. According to her words, it appears that she does not have any specific wish that she requests from the Grail, and the reason for her entering the Holy Grail War is to obtain fame and glory, and her way of doing it is by defeating all other masters and servants, and she seems to be confident in the superior strength that her servant, Ozymandias, possess. Because of this, I sent Arash and Heracles to defeat the Ozymandias, while he could become a strong ally, but I wouldn't let someone like him wander around just to try to kill me in the future. I even told Arash to use Stella if the need arises. On the other hand, I have sent Bazit, Arturia, and Cu Colaine after Richard the Lionheart and Emiya. While it would be better if I did take care of Emiya because he couldn't hurt me, maybe because of Alea, but I couldn't be in two different places. I also did a simple checkup on Iliasville last night, and I discovered that the problem of her short life isn't even accidental, it is only biological programming designed to make sure that she would die if her mission was not accomplished as the Lesser Grail, and it was easy to reverse it in addition to getting several ideas of how I can increase the number of magic circuits. Regardless of this, it appears that both Marisberry, Atram, and Kenneth who were hiding on an island have decided to intervene, and it appears that they were using the noble phantasm of the ship type to move. It was not difficult to identify, they were both Jason, Circe, Charles Henry Sensen. There were even Gray, Cheen Lianjiao, Dr. Heartless and Faker too. I will take care of them, said Medea, who was sitting next to me. I looked at her. I know this is a personal matter so it might not be wise to try to prevent her. It was her own revenge. Are you sure? I said to her while I grabbed her hand. I can go there. Please, Victor, you can trust me on this. I will kill them all. Medea said to me, not just for me, for both of us. And are you sure you can do this? You will have to fight 5 servants alone. I can join you. I just want you to watch me, just as I did yesterday. I'm strong, Victor, and you can count on me, just as this is something I should do, she told me with a smile, and also, if I am in danger, I will simply run away. Okay then, I said, after deep thought. Don't worry, she said, before she stood up and approached me, kissing me so deeply. Can I ask you for something? Of course, Medea, anything you want. After I return, can we try to get a child? I really want children with you. I looked at her with wide eyes, and it seems that she really meant this. Shouldn't we wait until you become human first? I know, but what difference will this make? She said to me while she kissed me again. Also, the experience won't hurt. Well then, Medea, but I don't think this war will last really long. Maybe it will end today or tomorrow so it will not make a difference. Well, dear, I have people I need to kill, said Medea while she put on her mask, and she used Trifa to teleport toward the location of her targets. As for me, I sat in my seat again and kept watching, but at this moment I felt like someone was approaching me. It is a servant. Due to my role as a counter-guardian, I possess the same spiritual senses that most spiritual creatures possess, so it was not difficult to discover a servant approaching me. However, all my servants and other faction servants are busy fighting each other, which makes this person ruler, Saint Martha. While I don't know her purpose from coming here, but I just can't ignore it. I can sense you can get out of your place. I said I am a moderate voice inside the empty room. After a few seconds, a shape appeared from the corner of the room, a girl who had blue eyes and long purple hair, reaching below her waist, with a white, golden frilled, short veil around her head. She wears a pair of blue earrings on each ear. A short, blue cloak draped over her shoulders is connected to a red collar. Saint Martha. I see, my presence concealment skill needs more training. I lifted my eyes off the crystal ball and I looked at Saint Martha directly. Good joke, but rulers don't have that skill. Oh, so you know what I am, she said consciously. Why don't you take a seat, Saint? I said while I pointed the seat next to me. She hesitated for a moment before sitting next to me, and I asked her, you break into my house while I'm completely alone. Maybe you want to kill me, or worse, what prevents me from calling the police? No, Are you sure you are Saint? Your actions do not confirm this fact, I said, interrupting her. No, I wanted to discuss something with you, and the other servants may not be very friendly with my presence here, she said, annoyingly and a little angry. Okay then, you can talk, just listen. She looked at me and waited for her to speak. Well, as a start, despite me being ruler, the only thing that has qualified me for this class are my accomplishments in life and my lack of interest in the Holy Grail. So I have no interest in my duties on protecting the Grail apart from maintaining neutrality. Okay, but I don't know why this is going to be my problem. I told her briefly and went back to the crystal ball. Although I don't care about my duties as a servant, but as a saint, I cannot let the Holy Grail that can grant wishes fall into the wrong hands, and you are the only one, without being a servant, who managed to kill a servant before, so I am here to ask you several questions. Well, you can, I simply told her. First, what you are, I can feel you are a spiritual being similar to the servants, but you still have a body of flesh and blood. I am a counter guardian, a subtype of heroic spirits. The contract I made with the counter force is a little different, so I am not dead. I said to her simply, although it is rare for people like me to be present, it was not important hiding that from an unimportant character will disappear in several days. And what is your wish? Medea wants to be human, while I will be wish for a birthday. I told her while I smiled a little. She said something but I didn't hear it because I was focusing too much on the crystal ball, as if time slowed down. Gilgamesh is here. I stared at the crystal ball now showing Gilgamesh who was sitting on the throne above his 10,000 BC Indian aircraft, Vimana, while flying over the area where Medea was fighting Circe, Jason, Charles Henry Sensen and Jean Lianjio and Iskandar's shadow, plus 5 other magus. Thinking about this, the last time I could grab a thread on Gilgamesh is a few months ago. Gilgamesh must have been avoiding me effortlessly. Perhaps he was using Shinakba Imuru to do this. After all, he is most affected by Angra Mainyu's death. Although he was not affected by the corruption, he must have felt his death because he touched the black mud before and received many benefits, so he will be surprised by the death of the god of all the world's evil. However, if he appears now in public, and he was hiding from me previously, this means either that he knows that his chance to not die is very high or that Shinakba Imuro could not offer him one specific future, so he will rely on his own arrogance that no one can defeat him. Thanks God my origin is determination. I literally say fuck you to all future sight abilities. Saint, I think our conversation are now over. You can stay if you want this, or go, I don't really care. I said while I'm passing. The light covered my body and in a second and the Doom armor appeared on my body. In previous years I had made several adjustments to it, such as adding 2 wings behind the armor in order to increase the flying speed of Medea's spell, as well as adjustments to reduce air bumps, and add a life support system. In short, I have converted the noble phantasm that Alea has given me into a mixture of technology and mystery. Of course it's still completely mystery and the tech parts are just simulation by Magecraft. Modern technology simply doesn't live up to Magecraft. Wait, you didn't. I used Trifa to instant teleport to the sky above the sea, more specifically, in front of Vimana several tens of meters away, while I could see the Medea fight down several kilometers down thanks to my clairvoyant. I boosted my armor with the Knight of Honor making things like green energy veins appear on it. I started firing Gandra shots at Vimana, and although there was no damage to the vehicle, Gilgamesh definitely noticed me and started evading the Gandra shots while he also began firing laminated weapons towards me. I heard him say something about how dare you bother him, but I just ignored it. While my flight speed was not close to that of Vimana, I could easily calculate and elude the path of the laser bullets and his projectile weapons. While we were fighting, it was like throwing attacks in random places where none of us were able to hit the other. After some time I got tired of this, while I of course do not want him to die easily, but his vehicle is just too fast. Fortunately, I have a solution to this problem. Sigma tau lambda eta tau omicron upsilon rho alpha nu omicron? A dense column of magical energy descended from the sky toward the earth in less than a second, while it hit the front part of the Vimana. While I deliberately did not hit the throne on which Gilgamesh sits, but the entire vehicle was thrown into the sea while it seemed to have been damaged. I smiled upon seeing this and waited several seconds before seeing that Vimana rise again, while the front part was damaged, but Gilgamesh was very angry and very wet. Mongrel, how dare you? Gilgamesh shouted angrily while at the same time hundreds of weapons, noble phantasms, started to appear from the area around him. He seemed to have passed his stupidity and decided to fight seriously. But it is not how I dare, Gilgamesh. I said quietly, but because the armor zooms in and changes my voice was heard in a big area. The thing is, I said quietly, but Gilgamesh released all his weapons toward me, hundreds of weapons from the Babylon gate heading towards me at a speed of at least Mach 10. It was really nice to see the black night sky shining with golden lights. When only a few meters separated golden weapons from my tearing into parts, my perception of time slowed down, enabling me to analyze everything appropriately, including internal prana manipulation and complex math performance. Trifa, I used the magecraft that replicate the true magic that control teleportation to arrive in front of Gilgamesh, and I literally slapped him on the face with all my strength enough to throw him from his throne towards the ship's floor. Oh my god, this is really a bitch slap. I just said to further humiliate him. Damn, I have to apologize to Med, Ishtar, Aphrodite, later. I just insulted them by likening you to them. Your servant caster killed Assassin of Red, Charles Henry Sensen. You gained 1 million EXP. You have reached level 133. You can choose one perk. Your servant caster killed Assassin of Red, Charles Henry Sensen. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Your servant, Arash Kumanger, is dead. You have got 0 EXP. Because of your contract with Arash Kumanger, you can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Your servant archer killed Rider of Black, Ozymandias. You gained 4 million EXP. You have reached level 134. Your servant archer killed Rider of Black, Ozymandias. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. I looked up the list curiously. Medea seemed to have killed an enemy member, while Arash seemed to have used Stella to beat Ozymandias. While Arash had been a good servant for a long time, sacrifices had to be made in order to win, plus I could summon him again after getting Heaven's Feel. I sent him with Heracles, so it seems that things went very badly. It seems that Arash was outside the temple in order to be able to use Stella. Thinking about this, it seems that there will be a new abyss on the other side of the city because of Stella. Bastard, Gilgamesh said while I noticed that all the weapons he had previously thrown had disappeared. It seemed that he had brought them back to Gob. Get off my ship. He tried to attack me again by launching several swords towards me, but I easily avoided them. While I wanted to kill him, but there is still one last benefit of it. I was pointing at him and my hand started glowing white. Pi Epsilon Iodoro Omicron Pi Nu Omicron? This was an advanced sleep spell, because Gilgamesh possesses magic resistance just at the E rank, as he has no hope of resisting it. When Gilgamesh lost consciousness, the ship disappeared from beneath us, and I immediately jumped and grabbed Gilgamesh's body. I smiled and I was about to return to my palace when I received a mental call from Artoria. Master, Lancer has been defeated and I'm now fighting 6 servants. Was Lancer defeated really easily? Lancer and his master fought well, but they were killed in the end. They could have killed 3 servants while I was busy fighting Archer of Red. It seems that Saber of Red can summon 7 servants, and that his speed is constantly increasing, and he seems to possess Avalon, which gives him a huge regeneration. I think I am losing. I am currently fighting against Saber and Archer and 4 additional servants. Archer can use Reality Marble that gives him endless weapons. I thought a little. It seemed I had become the last master of the Black Faction, apart from Ilias feel that I didn't let her go with Berserker. I looked at my options. Artoria wouldn't want to kill either Rin or Ayaka, nor would she want to use any dirty tricks to win, just as I was surprised that she said Richard had Avalon. I have Avalon? Fortunately I designed a spell for this, a spell to convert servants into altar servants. Although the Dark Grail has turned into a regular Lesser Grail, I can simulate its effects and improve it, a spell that only requires pre-contracting with the servant. Well, it seems that this war was not difficult or easy as expected, while every servant in my faction was killed, but I and Medea, in addition to Artoria, have survived. I will not lie, Artoria has made a plan in which no one of our faction or the other faction masters has to die, but I manipulated her plan a little by not providing enough information to her, and this is in order to ensure that apart from my faction masters, all their servants die. While Bazit was so injured that she seemed dead, I could have healed her and put her in a bed where she stayed asleep for a long time. The reason I did this was because the Holy Grail cannot fulfill an unlimited number of wishes, so this was my best bet. While Artoria Pendragon Altar is have less agility than regular Arturia, it compensates for this by increasing both strength, endurance, and mana, and also, unlike ordinary Artoria, Salter uses all of her capabilities and potential without any fear or concern for her enemies. Also, the fact that Salter could defeat both Archer Emiya and Richard the Lionheart was confirming this, although much of the city was destroyed, and of course, there were a few casualties, but the area that was destroyed was in the remote part of the city was destroyed 10 years ago, so there weren't many people there. Fortunately she was my servant, otherwise it was impossible to use the talisman that transformed it into an altar form, and unlike how Angra Mainyu uses it, Artoria will not undergo any major change in personality. According to Medea, it appears that after she managed to kill Charles Henry Sensen, she managed to use Rulebreaker to control Iskandar's shadow. While controlling the members of the other faction was useless because we would have to kill them in the end, Iskandar's shadow was not a servant in this Holy Grail war, so it is not really counted. And while Marisberry Animusphere and Grey have survived, Atram, Cainathiel Meloy Archibald and Dr. Heartless have had a worse fate with all the other servants. While I could of course go home on my own, I waited until Medea finished taking her revenge. I saw that she was really enjoying this. I cannot really blame her because I loved so much when I slapped Gilgamesh. I might do this again before I use his body, before Medea and me take Artoria Altar, who seems to have got Avalon, with us. It would have been strange if there were 2 Avalon. If Richard had owned him like his noble phantasm as a servant, then it wouldn't be strange. This immediately made me very cautious, and while Artoria Altar had taken it without permission, I did not mind because he was apart from me. And Grey, she can only use its full potential. While Medea can make limited immortal doses, it only works on living creatures. So after everything was over, Medea and I and Artoria Altar, as well as Iskandar's shadow, came home to me, with a bag I was putting Gilgamesh in. What are you doing here? I asked Martha, who was still in my house, while I was scratching the back of my head. Who is this, dear? Medea said while she held my arms. I, said Martha, while a red came across her face. I have no place to live. She is ruler, she's the judge. I briefly introduced it. Medea smiled, left my arms and headed towards Martha. You can stay here. I looked at them while I unintentionally smiled. The war ended, so Martha will not continue without a proper source of prana, but, well, you guys know it's Christmas, don't you? Martha said as she rubbed her cheek. And Iskandar's shadow said while she was angry that she is here against her will. Well, because I was here without anyone's approval, and because it was a happy occasion, I and that little girl prepared some food for us all. I hope you wouldn't mind that. Christmas, Medea said. Maybe she does not know what Christmas is. The birth of Christ, Artoria Altar said briefly. But, you know that Christ was born in the spring, not winter, right? Christmas is the feast of pagan and Catholic religions before the advent of Christianity. I suddenly corrected them. I know, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be celebrating, right? Martha said.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500 plus novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.